Chapter 91. From now on, you're my half-brother from another father and mother. Answer 1. Miss Xiao, would you be willing to become this young master's maid? Lu Chongqing looked at Xiao Yuyao before him and asked with a smile. Although whether he asked didn't really make a difference, the woman before him had no right to refuse anyway. But it could be hypocrisy or perhaps a flexible moral bottom line, so he still posed the question. After all, he, Lu, never coerced anyone against their will. Xiao Yuyao appeared slightly taken aback. Then, looking at Lu Chongqing, she squeezed out a bit of a smile and said, I am willing to serve as the young master's maid. Good, Manager Feng. I'm quite satisfied with her. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing didn't say much more and nodded towards Feng Jinyang. In his view, with her figure and the presence of a spiritual root, 150 spirit stones was not expensive at all, quite a bargain indeed. Just bearing him a few children with spiritual roots would mean he had struck gold. Immediately afterwards, Feng Jinyang waved her hand, signaling the girl in the red dress to take Xiao Yuyao out, to complete the subsequent transaction with Lu Chongqing. After Lu Chongqing had paid the remaining spirit stones, he was also given a spiritual contract. It was Xiao Yuyao's deed of servitude, but this spiritual contract was much more authoritative, able to decide Xiao Yuyao's life and death. And for the next 3 years, should any issues arise with Xiao Yuyao or she brought about any karmic troubles, Lu Chongqing could bring this spiritual contract to White Jade Tower and have them handle it. Young Master Han, please take care. If you need anything in the future, feel free to visit us often. Feng Jinyang warmly saw Lu Chongqing and Xiao Yuyao off the premises of White Jade Tower. As a manager at the White Jade Tower, she could tell from Lu Chongqing's clothing, appearance, and demeanor that he was a highly potential major client. Otherwise, for such a small transaction, she wouldn't have been so courteous. Okay. So, Lu Chongqing, taking Xiao Yuyao with him, first returned to the spiritual talisman shop. It was high noon, and Zhang Shan's wife, along with their child, came to the spiritual talisman shop delivering food in a lunchbox. Seeing a beautiful woman with a meek appearance following behind Lu Chongqing, Zhang Shan couldn't help but show a hint of envy. Upon reaching the 3rd floor, Lu Miaoga saw Xiao Yuyao and simply asked if this was the maid Lu Chongqing had purchased from White Jade Tower. Lu Chongqing nodded and briefly explained Xiao Yuyao's situation. Lu Miaoga didn't say much upon hearing this. She was even more aware than Lu Chongqing of the cruelty faced by the lower ranks within the cultivation world. Every day, countless tales unfolded of bones buried in the wilderness, families destroyed and scattered. If one were to sympathize with every such case, it would be overwhelming. In her eyes, it was fortunate for this woman to become Lu Chongqing's maid. After all, in Qingzhou Mountain, although Lu Chongqing's reputation was not very good due to taking wives and concubines and having too many children, he still had a very good reputation in dealing with his wives, concubines, and children. Night fell. Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoga got off work and headed back to the Lu family's large courtyard in the eastern district. As for Xiao Yuyao, the new maid, she followed half a step behind Lu Chongqing with her eyes demurely lowered. Li Shi and Wang Wu exchanged glances upon witnessing this scene. They could both see a touch of sorrow in each other's eyes. Although they aspired to dedicate themselves to Lu Chongqing, they understood. A man like Lu Chongqing was never short of women. The few in the Lu family's courtyard didn't make any remark about Lu Chongqing bringing home a woman. After all, it was just the purchase of a maid. Only the second daughter saw this and let out a louder snort than usual, her face showing even more disdain. Lu Chongqing smiled wryly, returned to his small courtyard and directly instructed Xiao Yuyao, "Go and prepare a bath for me." Since he had bought her to be a maid, naturally she was to be put to work. Though he had a moral bottom line, he did not have an obsession with moral cleanliness. He didn't go so far as to preach equality and treat a purchased servant with the same regard as anyone else. A maid should naturally look and act as one. As if realizing something, Xiao Yuyao's eyes trembled, and she quietly acknowledged with a yes. Then, carrying a bath bucket and bringing hot water, her cheeks flushed as she began to undress Lu Chongqing. She also pursed her lips, undressing herself, and together with the swooshing sound of the water, entered the bath with Lu Chongqing. her delicate, soft hands washing over his body. As a cultivator clad in a magical robe, Lu Changsheng's body never really accrued any dirt, making bathing somewhat unnecessary. But taking a bath was a form of relaxation and indulgence. With the means, one should enjoy such pleasures. Otherwise, wasn't life just a relentless pursuit of immortality? After she had scrubbed Lu Changsheng's body thoroughly, the blush on Xiao Yuyo's cheeks deepened, and with shy arms loosely embracing Lu Changsheng's neck, she spoke in an embarrassed tone, "Young master." Despite the stiffness in her movements and voice, it was clear that White Jade Tower had trained her well. She was very accommodating. Right then, Lu Changsheng could no longer suppress himself. After all, it had been nearly a month since he last indulged in the pleasures of the flesh. Suddenly, inside the bathtub, the water surged tumultuously, splashing everywhere, with vigorous agitation. The next day, indeed, it said that solitude yields no life, and singularity brings no growth. The harmony of yin and yang is essential. Lu Changsheng emerged from his room feeling refreshed and invigorated. It's truly better to have someone by your pillow. Without cuddling the tender warmth of a beauty, even sleep seemed to lack something. He didn't take Xiao Yuyao with him to the spiritual talisman shop. As he stepped out of the courtyard, he ran into Lu Miaoqing. "Changsheng." Lu Miaoqing, seeing Lu Changsheng, hurriedly approached him. His somewhat haggard face showed a hint of awkwardness as he smiled and said, "Changsheng, do you have any spare spirit stones on you? Could you lend me 20? Lu Changsheng had thought that the other was looking for him to perhaps discuss books or tea again. He hadn't expected a request for spirit stones, and to start with asking for as many as 20 spirit stones. Though he was often lavish with money, 20 spirit stones was not a small sum. Chapter 92. From now on, you are my half-brother from another father and mother. After all, when it comes to lending money, one must be prepared for the possibility that the other party won't repay it. Lu Miaoqing also managed a shop, but his monthly earnings were not much. Last time at Spring Abundance Building, there was a female cultivator I particularly liked, so I've spent all my spirit stones recently, which is why I've come to borrow some from you, he said. Changsheng, let me tell you, the women of Spring Abundance Building are not only stunning in appearance, but also can offer you the ultimate pleasure, incomparable to ordinary maids and concubines. Lu Miaoqing continued, his handsome face breaking into a smile that seemed somewhat lecherous at that moment. Lu Changsheng had also heard of this Spring Abundance Building. He knew it was a brothel in the marketplace. All the workers there were celestial maidens skilled in the art of love, so the prices were also extremely high. A single experience could cost several spirit stones, or even dozens. Lu Miaoqing had probably been frequenting the place lately. It was normal for him to have spent all his spirit stones. After all, such places were truly gold sinks. No matter how many spirit stones you had, they wouldn't last if you went there every day. Cousin, I've almost spent all my spirit stones these days, and I've just bought a maid, so I don't have many left, Lu Changsheng said with a look of difficulty, and then took out 20 spirit stones. He was, after all, a member of a prominent family. There were frequent interactions where they would see each other. These past days, he had received many greetings from him. Although it was always invitations to read or appreciate tea, there was a certain camaraderie, so it was difficult to outright refuse. If the other party really didn't repay, then he would consider the 20 spirit stones as lost to the water. Good brother, thank you. I will repay you once I have spirit stones, and then I'll take you to experience Spring Abundance Building properly, Lu Miaoqing said, smiling as he took the spirit stones and then turned and left. Sigh. Watching Lu Miaoqing's departing figure, Lu Changsheng shook his head. This cousin, despite being a Qi refinement 5th layer cultivator, has come to borrow spirit stones from me because of his frequent visits to the brothel that have left him haggard. Places like that, better to avoid them if possible. With that money, wouldn't it be better to take a few concubines or buy some maids? Doesn't that sound nice? No, that's not right. Am I Lu? Someone who lusts for pleasure and brief romantic encounters. Even if I take wives and concubines, it's for the great Tao, for long life and clear sight. Lu Changsheng mused to himself, his eyes bright with determination, and his posture a bit more erect. Shortly afterward, he strode upright, accompanied by Lu Miaoge, to work. Arriving at the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Chongqing proceeded as usual to draft a few middle-grade talismans. He had come to Nine Dragons Market to manage the shop, but the monthly tasks given by the Lu family for drawing talismans were still ongoing and needed to be completed on time. However, Lu Chongqing didn't want to give up on this task himself either. After all, not only did he earn spirit stones from it, but he also got to keep all the extra materials for himself. A lucrative deal. At noon, Lu Chongqing invited Lu Miaoge to eat at Jade Meal Hall. Though slightly expensive, the food really was delicious. Treating oneself to a meal there every so often was not bad. Yet, during the several trips Lu Miaoge and Lu Chongqing had made to Jade Meal Hall, Lu Miaoge had not let Lu Chongqing pay, suggesting they take turns covering the bill. Lu Chongqing didn't mind and certainly wasn't about to fight to pay. Qing Zhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop. Inside the talisman room. Could there be defects even in premium talisman paper? After finishing a superior grade talisman, the dungeon talisman, Lu Chongqing looked surprised. He had almost failed in creating this talisman just now. The reason was simple. There was a tiny flaw on the talisman paper that almost caused his talisman making to fail. Subsequently, Lu Chongqing checked the remaining dozen or so sheets of paper, all of which were fine. It was only the one he had just worked on that had a small defect. Seeing this, Lu Chongqing didn't pay it much mind or take it to heart. After all, finding a minor defect in a stack of talismans could still be considered acceptable. After a short rest, Lu Chongqing thought that it had been almost a month since he came to Nine Dragons Market. In a few days, after inspecting the monthly inventory, he would be able to return home. I should buy some gifts to take back since I'm returning soon. He then gave Lu Miaoge a heads up and went out to buy gifts for his wives and children. That night, Lu Changsheng's eyes were slightly narrowed as he lay back in the bath. After a while, Xiao Yuyo's head emerged from the water, covering her mouth, coughing softly. Lu Chongqing gestured with his hand, using the object manipulating technique to pour a cup of tea from the teapot on the side table, which landed in his hand. He handed it to the maid in front of him, speaking softly. "There's really no need to swallow it. It's fine, young master." Xiao Yuyao took a sip of tea and spoke softly, her eyes downcast. Her clear eyes no longer had the numbness they had before. Through their interactions over these days, she had come to understand that her young master was a decent person. Especially yesterday, the woman who had always looked at her young master with disdain had given her a couple of pointers. She said that apart from being desirous of women, her master was decent regarding females. As long as she behaved well, apart from bearing children, she would not be mistreated. Spiritual Talisman Shop. Boss, here is this month's stock, including 496 basic talismans, 851 lower-grade talismans, 388 middle-grade talismans, ordinary talisman paper. Zhang Shan handed over a list and 5 storage bags to Lu Miaoge to inspect. Lu Miaoge nodded and then went to the 3rd floor, calling Lu Chongqing over to help check the inventory. Of course, they couldn't possibly check all these goods. Otherwise, they wouldn't know when they would finish. Chapter 93. From now on, you are my half-brother from another father and mother. Moreover, the loose cultivators who collaborated with the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop were mostly fixed, so it was enough to inspect a portion of the goods each provided. Lu Miaoge explained the inspection standards for the goods to Lu Chongqing. For instance, with talisman inspections, first and foremost, the quality of the talisman paper couldn't be too poor. Then, the sketched talisman lines should flow smoothly at first glance, without any bumps or scrapes. And finally, the spiritual power within should circulate unimpeded. Talismans could be used as soon as they were made. However, there would be a 10 to 20% difference in effectiveness due to the quality of materials, the lines, and the spiritual power. Previously, when Lu Chongqing brought his talismans to the spiritual talisman shop to sell, It was because their quality was very good, which is why the sales went so smoothly. As for the talisman paper and spiritual ink, there should not be a single flaw in quality. Having heard this, Lu Chongqing finally understood the shop standards for goods. He couldn't help thinking about the talismans he had bought from the shop a few days earlier, only to find that one of them was flawed. Was this just his bad luck? A coincidence? Or was it a lapse in quality control? Immediately, Lu Chongqing started inspecting more seriously. After all, he was going to be responsible for managing the spiritual talisman shop in a short while. If there were quality issues with the goods under his watch, or if their reputation suffered, that would be problematic. Sister Miaoga, according to the standards, would you say the spiritual power inside this talisman is flowing smoothly? Lu Chongqing, holding a middle-grade talisman in his hands, gently felt the spiritual power coursing within and voiced his inquiry. This one is just on the passing mark. Any worse and we wouldn't accept it. Lu Miaoga said aloud. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing nodded and began to work. The work took the two of them a full 2 days to complete. Chongqing, you've worked hard. If it weren't for your help, it would have taken me 2 or 3 more days to finish the spot checks. Lu Miaoga said with a light smile on her face. It's what I should do. Lu Chongqing smiled and then took out a list and said, these people's goods have issues, so well return them. We want to cooperate with them in the future, right? During the 2 days of inspections, they indeed found some talismans, talisman papers, and spiritual inks that failed to meet quality standards. That's right, the main thing about running a shop in the marketplace is reputation. If there are too many issues with the goods, a bad reputation will essentially ruin the shop. That's why strict quality control in this area is a must. Lu Miaoga nodded her head with a serious tone. Okay. They'll make sure to control this aspect well. Lu Chongqing naturally understood this principle too. They say that becoming an official or getting rich means making enemies in the same trade, and rivals within the same industry harbor nothing but naked hatred for each other. With so many spiritual talisman shops in the Nine Dragons market, competition is fierce. The Lu family's spiritual talisman shop had not reached its current state easily. If any issues arose, other talisman shops would definitely pile on, and the business could plummet drastically. Uncle Zhang, I've finished inspecting the goods. These few suppliers have a low rate of quality goods. Return all their items and cease future cooperation. Lu Chongqing, holding a list, said to Zhang Shan. Yes, second master. Shopkeeper Zhang Shan nodded and took the list to look. Upon seeing a name on it, he said, Second master, this loose cultivator named Jia Huiran has cooperated with our shop for several years, and there has never been an issue during that time. Could there be some problem this time? Shall I ask him about it when I have a chance? Zhang Shan suggested. Has he been cooperating for several years without ever having an issue? Lu Chongqing raised his eyebrows upon hearing this. Yes, ever since the first master took over the shop, Jia Huiran has been working with us without any problems, and the quality has always been good, Zhang Shan said evenly. In that case, send his goods back to him and have him check everything himself. He'll take another look later. If there's no problem, then let's overlook it this time. Lu Chongqing eyed Zhang Shan, his gaze narrowing slightly as he spoke after a moment's thought. All right, second master. Zhang Shan immediately responded with a nod. After that, Lu Chongqing also discussed the matter with Lu Miaoga. Lu Miaoga felt the issue was not too serious and that giving them a chance was fine. It was up to Lu Chongqing to handle it. She then mentioned that she would be returning to Qingzhou Mountain in 2 days. After returning to the Lu family's courtyard, Lu Chongqing also told Xiao Yuyao he would have to go back in a few days. Xiao Yuyao was aware that this son of hers had a pile of wives, concubines, and children at the Lu family and obediently responded. Meanwhile, in a small courtyard in the western district, Brother Zhang, why were all the materials from this batch sent back for rework? A burly man asked Zhang Shan. Sent back for rework? And you're still asking me? This month, the shop got a new owner, so for the next few months, the shop will be monitored much more closely. Keep an eye on the quality yourself, and don't give me any of those shoddy goods passed off as first-rate again. If I hadn't spoken up this time, they would have directly terminated the partnership. Zhang Shan replied irritably. Terminate it then. When the time comes, we'll just change the name and continue the partnership as usual, won't we? The burly man said with an indifferent expression. Changing the name would only bring more trouble if the inspections find issues again. Moreover, I haven't quite figured out this new owner's temperament yet. Let old Zhou and old Yang keep an eye out as well. Zhang Shan continued, his face stern and beyond questioning. All right, brother Zhang, I got it. Seeing the situation, the burly man nodded earnestly. 2 days later, early in the morning, Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoge rode the Iron Feather Eagle from Nine Dragons Market back to Qingzhou Mountain. Similar to their journey there, it took 2 days for the pair to safely return to the Lu family. Husband. The husband has returned. Daddy. As soon as Lu Chongsheng entered, several wives, concubines, and playing children caught sight of his return and ran over to him with boundless joy, surrounding him in hugs. This is what home feels like. Seeing this, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but smile, patting his wives and embracing his children. Afterward, the other wives and concubines also came to meet Lu Chongsheng. In the process, Lu Chongsheng noticed a woman he hadn't seen before. This woman, appearing to be 17 or 18 years old, had a demeanor of refined grace and seemed somewhat shy. Later on, through Lu Miao's explanation, he learned that this woman was named Guan Xian. She was sent over by Hong Yi not long ago when he came to Qingzhou Mountain to trade talismans and possessed an 8th grade spiritual root. At this point, Lu Miaoyun pouted slightly and coquettishly said that Lu Chongsheng having them was not enough, and insisted that he had others find women for him outside. Hearing this, Lu Chongsheng immediately envisioned the scene. Lu Miaoyun, pregnant, had gone to trade talismans on his behalf, and as a result, Hong Yi sent him a young girl. Under such circumstances, it was normal for Lu Miaoyun, as his principal wife, to show a bit of temper. He immediately soothed her, assuring her that he truly had no idea and was unaware of this development. After Jur and Shuaer, he had told Hong Yi not to engage in such activities anymore. He stated that if he had been there, he would have definitely declined. He then showered her with sweet talk, praising Lu Miao's conduct as a leading wife and declaring her to be an exemplary helpmate to him. Of course, he said what he said, but in his heart it was Hong Yi, what a good brother. In secular society, finding someone with a spiritual root was not easy, let alone a young woman in her prime years. Now that Hong Yi had found one and sent her to him, he was truly like a brother, though not by blood. Lu Chongsheng also thought that he could now start selling some middle-grade talismans to Hong Yi. On the one hand, it would increase his income. On the other hand, it was a way to give Hong Yi some benefits. After all, Hong Yi had treated him so well, like a brother, so he could not fail to reciprocate. Later, Lu Chongsheng chatted with Guan Xian, inquiring about her family situation and whether she came of her own will, ensuring she hadn't been coerced in any way. She conveyed that her family was an ordinary family of 5, and she had willingly sold herself to the Rui Marquis mansion to serve the Celestial Master. Hearing this, Lu Chongsheng was relieved. A gentleman adores the fair sex but always acts in an upright manner. His bottom line, Lu's own, was not to coerce anyone and to avoid any possible trouble. Chapter 94. All right, I was wrong. Okay. _1 There's a saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. That night, after successive intense battles, there was much tossing and turning. The passion of the process, sweet and lingering, was not for others to know. Due to this trip home, I'd only be staying for 3 days. So, during these 3 days, Lu Chongsheng didn't do much cultivation or talisman making, instead spending all his time with his wives and children. In the meantime, Lu Chongsheng also mentioned to Lu Miaoyun that had bought a maid while at Nine Dragons Market. There was nothing to hide about such matters. His wives would eventually find out once Xiao Yuyao became pregnant. Lu Miaoyun, knowing her husband's temperament all too well, didn't mind too much and didn't make much of it. After all, when she agreed to marry Lu Chongsheng, She was already mentally prepared for this aspect. She simply showed concern, asking with full attention how Lu Changsheng's life had been at Nine Dragons Market, and whether he had been well. Warmed by his little wife's concern, Lu Changsheng expressed that aside from missing his family, everything else was fine. Later, Lu Changsheng also went to visit the fourth elder and received guidance on talisman making. During this, the fourth elder also showed concern and inquired about his adaptation to life in Nine Dragons Market. Lu Changsheng naturally said there were no problems. Then, on the way back, he stopped by the fifth elder's place and bought a batch of spiritual wine. Thus, the 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge were ready to start their journey back to Nine Dragons Market. His 25th child was about to be born in the coming days. But Lu Changsheng didn't wait at home for the birth of the child before leaving. This situation would arise again in the future, and he couldn't always be by their side. Everything has its first time. On the journey back to Nine Dragons Market, Lu Changsheng's iron feather eagle was joined by a maid named Xiaoqing. Taking Xiaoqing to Nine Dragons Market was partly because Lu Miaoyun had mentioned it earlier, asking him to bring Xiaoqing over. Moreover, having babies couldn't be halted, and Xiao Yuyao alone was not enough by his side. If not for the inconvenience of the iron feather eagle carrying too many people, Lu Changsheng would have also liked to bring Guan Xian to Nine Dragons Market. However, he wasn't in a hurry, as it would be the same if he brought her over the next month. Because he brought Xiaoqing, the journey took half a day longer than before. Also, as Xiaoqing wasn't protected by a magical robe, she consumed 3 of Lu Changsheng's wind-avoiding talismans while traveling through the clouds on the iron feather eagle. If Lu Changsheng didn't have an abundance of talismans and didn't mind the cost, just those 3 talismans would have cost 6 spirit stones, which was a significant expense. Upon entering the city, Lu Changsheng also got a long-term identity card for Xiaoqing. He couldn't help thinking to himself that bringing people to live in the marketplace also entailed quite an expense. When he brought Xiaoqing back to the Lu family compound, Lu Changsheng encountered Lu Miaohuan. The latter huffed with disdain and scorn written all over her face. This made Lu Changsheng somewhat displeased. Now and then your occasional snorts are fine. But do you have to huff with disdain every time we meet? Despite being the dream of untold numbers of fairies in the future, am still so unwelcome? Moreover, at the initial arranged meeting, although I was at fault, it was your excessive demands of not allowing a husband to take other wives or concubines that led me to refuse. If not for that, with your face, your figure, your legs, and your 6th grade spiritual root, if you were even half as good-natured as Lu Miaoyun, I feel I might have agreed. Second miss, are you sure there's nothing wrong with your health? Every time I see you, you're frowning and huffing. If something really is wrong, you should get it checked out soon, or it might get worse. Lu Changsheng glanced at the second miss and said with a touch of annoyance. After speaking, he took Xiaoqing back to his own courtyard. Lu Miaohuan didn't expect that after so long, not only did Lu Changsheng not apologize to her, but he also made sarcastic remarks, which left her feeling upset. She said coldly, "I'm in perfectly good health. I just dislike you. Is that a problem?" Her voice was still clear and beautiful. Hearing the second miss speak so frankly and righteously, Lu Changsheng was momentarily at a loss for words. Looking at Lu Miaohuan's icy, indignant, yet still exquisite face, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but respond, "Then don't look. I will look if I want to. Do you think you can stop me?" Lu Miaohuan's face puffed up with anger, her delicate chin lifted, a picture of cold and noble beauty. "I can't stop you. If you insist on making yourself miserable, then by all means, continue feeling upset," Lu Changsheng said, shaking his head as he walked away. "Lu Changsheng, you stop right there." Seeing Lu Changsheng's stance, the expression on Lu Miaohuan's delicate face inflated like a pufferfish. "You're the one who has an issue with me. Why are you telling me to stop? Do you want to make yourself suffer?" Lu Changsheng paused mid-step and looked sideways. What kind of attitude is that? Lu Miaohuan's face turned frosty as her chest heaved with indignation. All right, okay. I was wrong. I'm wrong. Happy now?" Lu Changsheng's face was full of insincerity, uttering words that could infuriate anyone. What do you mean by I was wrong, happy now? It was clearly your fault. Is this how you apologize? Lu Miaohuan became increasingly agitated upon seeing Lu Changsheng's demeanor. An inexplicable fury surged within her, making her feel extremely annoyed. As Lu Changsheng observed her posture and temperament, he was reminded that the second miss was spoiled with a temperamental nature. Concepts such as interpersonal relations and social graces were non-existent in her. Not wanting to argue or fight with her, he turned around, bowed slightly, and earnestly said, "All right, it's my fault. I sincerely apologize to Second Mississippi. Please forgive me." Seeing Lu Changsheng's earnest apology, Lu Miaohuan's puffed cheeks deflated. Her lips pursed, and with a huff, she walked away with high heels clicking, the epitome of a cold and noble beauty. Chapter 95. All right, I was wrong. Okay. Lu Changsheng witnessed this scene and couldn't help being speechless. How is the second miss behaving like a child? The first miss, although appearing otherworldly, actually has a high EQ and handles interpersonal relationships very well. Lu Changsheng couldn't help shaking his head. He also felt there was no need to take the second miss so seriously, and when it was time to apologize, he might as well just do it. It would be like humoring a little girl. Best to just humor her and be done with it. "Son-in-law, it seems the second miss has taken a fancy to you," said the maid Xiaoqing giggling as she watched the two of them bicker. "Nonsense." Lu Changsheng flicked Xiaoqing's pale forehead with his finger. "It's true," the little maid said, pouting her lips while covering her forehead that had been flicked, knowing her master's temper. Lu Changsheng chuckled, feeling that the second misbehavior was indeed like that of a child trying to catch someone's attention in a certain way. He didn't pay it much mind. After all, if the second miss really took an interest in him, wanting to marry him, he would find it hard to accommodate, not having the energy to pamper her. Having settled Xiaoqing in the courtyard, Lu Changsheng suddenly thought of a problem. If the number of his wives, concubines, and maids increased, he might need to consider renting a house in the marketplace. After all, this small courtyard only had about 100 square meters, which was indeed quite small. And if there were many wives and maids, it would be inconvenient to live together in such a large courtyard. But for now, with just 3 people, Lu Changsheng wasn't in a hurry. He planned to rent a house in Nine Dragons Market once there were a few more people. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Lu Changsheng spent his days cultivating, making talismans, and going to work. Sometimes he'd go shopping with the little maid, and would occasionally invite the first miss to eat out. Life was quite leisurely and comfortable. One day, Lu Miaoqing came to find Lu Changsheng again. Lu Changsheng thought he was coming to repay the money, but unexpectedly, the man was here to ask for a loan again. There's a saying, borrowing and returning makes for further borrowing not hard, but don't lend to the desperately poor. For someone like Lu Miaoqing, who hadn't repaid the first loan and was likely borrowing money to indulge in pleasures again, Lu Changsheng naturally would not lend anymore. He stated straightforwardly that he had no money. Not only did he claim to be out of money, but he also directly pleaded poverty, asking Lu Miaoqing when he would return the spirit stones. Under Lu Changsheng's acting, Lu Miaoqing could only leave disappointed. After all, to ordinary people, Lu Changsheng's income would indeed not amount to much if he had to support so many wives and children. He came to borrow money from you? Better to keep your distance from that sort of person. But you two do seem to have something in common. No wonder he came to you for a loan. Lu Miaohuan, just returning from work, passed by and saw Lu Miaoqing leaving. Guessing what had happened, she sneered. "How are we of the same ilk? I, at the very least, have 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored consorts, and 3 maids. Do I need to go to such places?" Lu Changsheng, seeing Lu Miaohuan's expression, snorted in disdain and walked away. Lu Miaohuan, hearing Lu Changsheng's words and watching his retreating figure, didn't know why, but felt her anger rising incessantly, very annoyed. That night, after, Xiao Yuyao and Xiaoqing leaned languidly in Lu Changsheng's embrace. "My lord, I think I might be pregnant," Xiao Yuyao said in a soft voice. Pregnant. Lu Changsheng's spirits lifted upon hearing this. There's a saying that a lone yin does not produce life, nor does a lone yang endure, and these days he had been harmonizing yin and yang with Xiao Yuyao nightly. Now after such a long time, her being pregnant was natural. Instantly, he pressed his head to Xiao Yuyao's belly. He could faintly feel a weak life force gestating. Good, good, good. Lu Chongqing repeatedly cheered, his face full of delight, and asked, When did you realize it? Xiao Yuyao was also a cultivator with a qi refinement level of the second level, so it was natural for her to be aware of her own pregnancy. It was just a couple of days ago, but at that time I wasn't sure yet. I only confirmed it today, Xiao Yuyao said gently. She knew that her lord particularly adored children. Good. From now on, take good care of yourself and pay attention to your health. If you need anything for eating or drinking, just let me know, Lu Chongqing said. Now that she was carrying a child, becoming the mother of his child, her status in his heart would naturally rise. Xiao Qing, seeing this, her watery eyes filled with coquettishness, looked at Lu Chongqing and said in a tender voice, My lord, I want to bear your child too. Good, 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 bear one. Lu Chongqing drew Xiao Qing close and agreed. In 2 months' time, Lu Miao's child was due. For Xiao Qing to be pregnant now would be about the right time. He then rolled over and set about striving for the great Tao of immortality. The next day, Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoge went to work. Thinking of Xiao Yuyao's pregnancy, he now only had Xiao Qing left by his side. Previously, he had been concerned about Lu Miao's pregnancy, which is why he hadn't allowed Xiao Qing to get pregnant. Now, without such concerns, he reckoned that under daily yin and yang harmonization, it shouldn't take long for Xiao Qing to conceive as well. Should we, perhaps, buy some more maids from White Jade Tower? Now that Yuyao is pregnant, she needs someone to take care of her. If Xiao Qing gets pregnant, she'll need someone too, Lu Chongqing mused inwardly. He hadn't really thought that the maids he bought must possess a spiritual root. Indeed, his intent was to practice eugenics, but it was also to do so as much as practicable under the circumstances. Currently, he clearly did not have the conditions for that. However, the first order of business is to earn some spirit stones. Lu Chongqing shook his head slightly. The spirit stones he had previously earned, spent on magic artifacts, talisman brushes, talisman paper, and spirit ink, together with the expenses incurred in recent times, had almost depleted his reserves. Chapter 96. Alright, I was wrong. Okay? So, even if he were to buy ordinary maids without a spiritual root, the money he had would hardly suffice. Because if one were to buy maids, naturally one could not just buy one or two. If buying, one should buy many at once. And with the increase of maids, the matter of renting a house also had to be put on the agenda. Alas, wealth and companions are needed in the practice of the law. Wealth and companions are needed in the practice of the law. Indeed, no matter where you are, you need to have money. If it wasn't for my talisman-making skills, these years, having stored so many talismans on me, the very thought of cultivation would be extremely difficult. Lu Chongqing shook his head and sighed, deeply sensing the difficulty of cultivation. If it was already like this for himself, how much harder it must be for other ordinary cultivators, he thought. After giving Lu Miaoge a quick heads-up, Lu Chongqing left the house and, after disguising himself, went around to several spiritual talisman shops and sold almost 200 talismans. This time selling talismans, he was even more cautious and did not go to the shops where he had sold talismans before, to avoid being noticed by someone with ulterior motives. Sigh, this is ultimately not a long-term solution. A few more times, I would have visited every spiritual talisman shop in the Nine Dragons Market, and I might end up drawing the attention of someone with ulterior motives. In the inn, Lu Chongqing checked himself with a purification talisman, making sure he wasn't being watched, and let out a sigh of relief. The Lu family's spiritual talisman shop purchases talismans outside every month. In a few more months, the young lady won't be at the spiritual talisman shop every day, and by then I will be fully in charge of the shop. At that time, depending on the situation, I can sell the talismans I have through the channel of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, without having to run around like this, worried about being watched. Lu Changsheng's eyes flickered. He had thought before about whether he could sell his own spirit talismans through the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. And this month's observations made him feel it was increasingly feasible. All he needed to do was to forge a supplier, as long as the goods provided were fine. Once the shop was under his full responsibility, such a thing would be easier than ever. That night, Lu Chongqing also asked Xiaoqing to find out about the housing prices and rental situation in the Nine Dragons market and planned to rent a 400 to 500 square meter house. For the location of the house, he told Xiaoqing to look in the eastern and northern districts and not to go to the western district. The western district was the gathering place for loose cultivators. Not only was it far, but it was also a mixture of good and bad, and there might be unexpected dangers. So it wouldn't matter even if it cost a bit more money. Even though the northern district was a commercial and entertainment district, belonging to the bustling city, there were still many houses for rent. It's just that the cost-effectiveness wasn't very high, considering the northern district was mainly to be as close as possible to the spiritual talisman shop for convenience. This would not only save him the daily commute time but also make explanations to the Lu family simpler. 2 days later, Xiaoqing showed Lu Chongqing several houses to pick from. Looking at the conditions and prices of these houses, Lu Chongqing also gained an understanding of the housing prices in the Nine Dragons market. In the eastern district, a house of 400 to 500 square meters, depending on different lease terms, location, and environment, the price would be roughly between 60 and 100 spirit stones. The houses in the northern district, however, were much cheaper. The rent for a year was around 30 to 80 spirit stones. After looking at the houses Xiaoqing had picked out, Lu Chongqing immediately made a decision. He chose a house in the northern district, not far from the spiritual talisman shop. The walk was almost 15 minutes. The house was about 400 square meters, and the minimum lease term was 5 years. The annual rent was 50 spirit stones, which could be paid yearly, and 1 year's rent would be required as a deposit. After deciding to rent the house, Lu Chongqing mentioned the matter to Lu Miaoge that same night and also informed the second elder. After all, it wouldn't seem right to just rent a house and move out without saying a word when he was living comfortably in the area. And he had a ready-made reason. He was planning to have some of his wives and concubines come to stay in the marketplace for a while, which would be somewhat cramped at his current place and not very convenient. Moreover, he didn't want to walk back and forth every day. So he decided to rent a house near the spiritual talisman shop, which would make things much more convenient on a daily basis. When the second elder heard this, he initially suggested giving Lu Chongqing a larger courtyard. But upon Lu Changsheng's insistence, he didn't say much else. He only asked briefly whether Lu Chongqing had rented yet and if he had found a suitable house, offering to have someone help take a look. Lu Chongqing stated that he hadn't rented yet but had seen some and had a few in mind, and he showed his choices to the second elder. After looking them over, the latter saw no issues, but merely advised Lu Chongqing to come and visit more often. The very next day, Lu Chongqing went to the housing store management center established by Qingyun sect, paid 100 spirit stones, and signed a rental spiritual contract. During the lease period, he had the right to enter and reside in the marketplace without the need to pay the city entrance fee or process an identity card. Moreover, according to the size of the house, he also obtained 3 additional free residency spots. Having such a large house but only 3 free residency spots made Lu Chongqing shake his head in disdain at their stinginess. What he found even more ridiculous was that the long-term identity cards that he had processed for himself and Xiaoqing were non-refundable, and he couldn't get any spirit stones back. After completing the house rental, Lu Chongqing once again visited the White Jade Tower to purchase maids. What surprised him was that even the ordinary maids at White Jade Tower were so expensive. Even those without a spiritual root cost several spirit stones each, and the more expensive ones could cost dozens or even hundreds. With Feng Jiuniang's explanation, he understood why even ordinary maids were so costly. One reason was the brand reputation of White Jade Tower. It guaranteed absolute assurance in the maid's appearance, figure, and loyalty. Additionally, these maids were trained and educated by White Jade Tower, not only proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, and the pleasures of the boudoir. They were also skilled in martial arts, and even the cultivation techniques they practiced could enhance and solidify one's foundation. For maids without a spiritual root, there were more options available. Essentially, as long as one had the money, White Jade Tower could provide whatever looks, figure, and personality one desired. In the selection, Lu Chongqing also saw exotic female figures like Jur and Shuaer, as well as maidens of the demon race. However, most of these demon race women partially possessed demon bloodlines, which were activated by White Jade Tower through certain methods, giving rise to demonic features. Such maids were only suitable as cherished concubines and generally lacked the ability to bear children, which Lu Chongqing found regrettable. In the end, Lu Chongqing spent 116 spirit stones to purchase 9 maids with unique features. 2 of them were already in the White Jade Tower, while the rest would be sent over later. Immediately, Lu Chongqing settled the 2 maids in his newly rented house, and that very day he packed light, moving in with Xiao Yuyao and Xiao Qing. Chapter 97. I, Lu Chongqing, a full-time artisan. _1 After moving, Lu Chongqing cast a spell to do a simple sweep of the house and the yard. This house only has a basic soundproofing formation. It seems he'll need to buy a few small formations later. Lu Chongqing observed the situation in the yard and thought to himself, even though 9 Dragons Market had good public order, it still couldn't compare to living in Qingzhou Valley's Lu family compound in the Eastern District. He still needed to be cautious and have some security measures. Otherwise, what would happen if he was not at home and his wives encountered danger while at home? Moreover, these small formations could be taken along and reused after purchasing when moving houses in the future. The next day, before going to work, Lu Chongqing gave Xiao Qing 20 spirit stones. He asked her to buy some spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and spiritual materials to store at home. Now that he had Xiao Qing, a spirit cooking chef, he could enjoy better quality food. He also asked Xiao Qing to prepare lunch for 2 and deliver it to the spiritual talisman shop around noon. On his way to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Chongqing saw an array shop and went in to inquire about the prices of small formations, formation implements, and array plates. As for the formation implements, there are formation flags, array plates, and formation eyes as part of the set, and the specific cost depends on the area you want to cover. The shopkeeper of the formation shop began to introduce. Subsequently, Lu Chongqing asked how much the formation implements would cost for a yard of around 400 or 500 square meters. There are many types of formations. For this size, the most common first-grade lower-quality formation, the minor misleading array, costs 180 spirit stones. As for some stronger formations, it's not enough to just have the formation implements. You also need an array master to set it up and inscribe the array patterns. The shopkeeper, recognizing Lu Chongqing, spoke more, sharing knowledge about formations with him. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing involuntarily clicked his tongue in wonder. Just to cover 400 square meters with a first-grade ordinary lower-quality formation implement would cost 180 spirit stones. The price for a complete set of first-grade middle-quality formation implements was around 400 or 500 spirit stones. As for a complete set of first-grade high-quality formation implements, the price was basically 1,000 or more spirit stones. And for complex formations, the cost was even higher because it included the fee for the array master's services. Truly, compared to array masters, alchemists, and artifact refiners, talisman masters are still a bit lacking. I also wonder if I will be able to draw formation skills in the future. If I could become an array master, then once I am settled down, I won't have to worry about someone breaking into my home. After chatting with the shopkeeper for a while, Lu Chongqing shook his head and left. He didn't have the money now, and even the first-grade lower-quality formation implements were beyond his reach. Moreover, in his opinion, the first-grade lower-quality formation implements were actually somewhat mediocre in effect. At noon, Xiao Qing came to deliver food, carrying a lunchbox. When Lu Miaoge found out there was also a portion for her, a smile appeared on her face. Lu Chongqing had Xiao Qing prepare 2 portions, naturally including one for the young miss. After spending some time together, Lu Chongqing knew that Miaoge also had a bit of a foodie trait and liked to eat often. Unfortunately, he himself had no culinary skills. He couldn't rely on cooking some dishes to conquer her stomach and then her heart with a roasted chicken, unless one day he won culinary skills in a draw. After finishing the meal, Lu Miaoge also offered to give spirit stones to Lu Chongsheng as food expenses. Lu Chongsheng naturally refused to accept this. But unable to persuade Lu Miaoge otherwise, he eventually agreed to accept 12 spirit stones as a token per month. Night fell. When Lu Chongsheng got off work and returned home that day, Xiao Qing told him that in the afternoon a neighboring household had come to visit. They had also brought 3 talismans, saying that they were now neighbors and hoped to look out for each other more in the future. Hearing this, Lu Chongsheng was a bit surprised. He hadn't expected the neighbor to be so enthusiastic. He took the talismans from Xiao Qing's hand to have a look, and all 3 were of lower-grade quality. The neighbor gave talismans as a gift. Could it be that this neighbor is a talisman master? Lu Chongsheng thought to himself. Thinking that close neighbors are better than distant relatives and that one relies on friends when away from home, he would also be living here for quite some time. Since the neighbor took the initiative to visit, they seemed to be approachable, and it would be good to get acquainted. Moreover, maintaining a good relationship with the surrounding neighbors wouldn't be a bad thing. At the very least, he would know what kind of people his neighbors were. Without further ado, Lu Chongsheng also prepared a basket of fruit and took out 2 gift boxes containing several talismans to return the visit. Knock, knock, knock. Lu Chongsheng went to knock on the door of the small courtyard to the right. Soon the door creaked open. "Who are you looking for, uncle?" The door was opened by a little girl around 11 or 12 years old with chubby cheeks, 2 buns tied with ribbons on her head, and wearing a pale blue ruchuan. The little girl was incredibly cute, with long eyelashes fluttering and her clear, distinct eyes looking up at Lu Chongsheng as she asked in a crisp voice, "I'm the neighbor who just moved in next door. I've come to visit. Is your family elder at home?" Lu Chongsheng asked with a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "The neighbor from next door?" Upon hearing this, the little girl tilted her head and then called into the house with a bright voice, "Dad, it's the uncle who moved in next door." Then, a man in his 30s with a friendly face and a somewhat plump figure walked out from inside. "I've just moved in next door, and having heard that a friend came to visit earlier today, I too wanted to come over and get acquainted," Lu Chongsheng said politely as he handed over the basket of fruit. "Oh, it's you, Lu Daoist. I'm Gao He. Please, come in, come in," the middle-aged man said with a warm smile, gesturing invitingly in a way that exuded an aura of affability and prosperity. This courtyard was subdivided, covering only about 100 square meters, and was not as large as Lu Changsheng's own yard. Chapter 98. I, Lu Chongsheng, a full-time artisan. However, Lu Chongsheng did glance over and saw that the household consisted only of Gao He and his daughter, as well as 2 servants, which seemed enough for such a large residence. While chatting, Lu Chongsheng learned that the other party was a middle-grade talisman master who sat in residence at a spiritual talisman shop. Once Gao He learned that Lu Chongsheng was the owner of the Qingzhou Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, he became noticeably more enthusiastic. He expressed that they could have business dealings in the future. Subsequently, the 2 also exchanged insights on the art of talisman making. Through the conversation, Lu Chongsheng roughly concluded that Gao He was at the intermediate level among middle-grade talisman masters, still some distance away from becoming a superior one. After leaving Gao He's home, Lu Chongsheng also took the opportunity to visit the residence across the street. The person who opened the door was an elderly man, a senior servant of the household. Upon hearing Lu Changsheng's intention, he indicated that his master was not in and would only return after the hour of Su each day. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongsheng apologized for the disturbance and said he would visit again another time. Then he knocked on the door on the left to pay a visit there. "Who might you be?" The door was opened by a softly featured lady in her 30s, plump yet graceful in figure. Her skin was as white as snow, her eyebrows like emerald feathers, her nose like a distant mountain, and her lips were as rosy as blossoms, with her jet-black hair coiled up into a bun. She was draped in a light blue dress, with a slim waist tightly cinched by a belt, revealing a proud and curvaceous body. A gentle smile graced her lips, emanating a mature charm unique to a beautiful matron. "My name is Lu Chongsheng. I've just moved in next door, so I've taken the liberty to come and introduce myself." Lu Chongsheng, with a genial face and a smile, bowed slightly with his hands clasped and presented a gift box containing talismans. Inside were 3 low-grade talismans and 1 middle-grade talisman. After all, a small gift for a new acquaintance need not be too valuable. "So it's Taoist Lu. Please come in." Upon hearing this, the matron invited Lu Chongsheng into the courtyard, served tea and water, and called out her husband to greet him. Her husband was a man in his 40s, tall and brawny. This man was entirely different from the genial Gao He, being somewhat taciturn. In his presence, Lu Chongsheng even sensed a somewhat fierce aura, feeling that this person was not easy to approach. After a brief conversation, Lu Chongsheng took his leave, mentioning he would be available for future talisman purchases. The man introduced himself as Zhao, who made his living by hunting demon beasts. He told Lu Chongsheng that if he ever wished to buy demon beast meat, he could come to him. After paying his visits to the 3 neighboring families to the left and right, Lu Chongsheng returned to his own residence. After a bath, he called upon Xiao Qing and 2 maids, determined to strive for immortality. The next day, just as Lu Chongsheng was preparing to leave, he heard a knock at the door. Upon opening, he saw a man with a tall stature and a refined appearance of middle age. It was his neighbor from across the way, who, having heard of Lu Chongsheng's visit yesterday and noticing some activity this morning, took the opportunity to return the visit while at home. The neighbor knew him and was aware that he was the new owner of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Through his self-introduction, Lu Chongsheng realized that this was the owner of the Jade Meal Hall, whom he had noted several times before. Probably a born businessman, the owner of the Jade Meal Hall was also very amicable. He suggested they should interact more in the future, offering discounts whenever Lu Chongsheng dined at the Jade Meal Hall. Lu Chongsheng, too, was the type of person who responded amiably when others spoke kindly to him. After exchanging pleasantries with the man, he finally set off. He thought to himself that among the 3 neighboring families, aside from the somewhat fierce family on the left, the others seemed rather nice. Time flew, and before he knew it, the end of the month was almost upon him. Zhang Shan brought the inventory and list of goods purchased during the month for Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoge to spot check. It took 2 days for the 2 of them to finish inspecting the goods. As before, they found some defective and flawed items, but not too many. This prompted Lu Chongsheng to inquire if Lu Miaoge's suppliers for the shop weren't long-term partners, why there were always some defective and flawed items in every shipment. Faced with this question, Lu Miaoge merely said that although they were long-term collaborators, only some were fixed and long-term. There were sometimes changes, necessitating the search for new suppliers. Hearing this, Lu Chongsheng nodded in understanding. He recognized that the Lu family's supply chain was not entirely stable. Thus, quality issues like this were simply unavoidable. Thinking ahead to 2 months from now, when Lu Miaoge would no longer be around to help, Lu Chongsheng felt a headache coming on. After all, inspecting goods was truly a tedious and grueling task. Once they had completed their checks and handed the confirmed list to Zhang Shan, Lu Chongsheng also agreed with Lu Miaoge to return to Qingzhou Mountain in 2 days' time. 2 days later, Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoge rode the Iron Feather Eagle back to Qingzhou Mountain. Xiao Qing naturally stayed in 9 Dragons Market, as she could not be expected to follow him around. When he was to return to 9 Dragons Market, he would bring Guan Xian with him too, and with more people it would be inconvenient. The 2 had a smooth journey back to Qingzhou Mountain. Upon returning home, Lu Chongsheng learned that his 25th child had been born. And on the 3rd day after his return, his 26th child was also born. No unexpected surprises occurred. Both children were born without a spiritual root. Lu Chongsheng took this fact in stride. There was still a month's time before Lu Miaoyun was due to give birth. Lu Chongsheng had some expectations and paid special attention to the child in Lu Miaoyun's womb. He even thought to himself that perhaps he should stay in Qingzhou Mountain this month to wait for Lu Miaoyun to give birth and see the child before leaving. However, considering that a month after Lu Miaoyun's delivery, it would be time for Chu Zhenshin's child to be born. He couldn't very well wait for one and not the other. Chapter 99. I, Lu Chongqing, a full-time artisan. This matter is not about scarcity, but about uneven distribution. If everyone waits, I feel like there's no need for me to go out at all. In the end, Lu Chongqing decided to spend the next few days in close companionship. Then, estimating the time, he planned to come home early and stay a few extra days. It could also be considered a special privilege for his wife. During these 3 days at home, Lu Chongqing still spent time with his wives and daughters, hardly cultivating or making talismans. This time, going to listen to the fourth elder's talisman instruction. The fourth elder also handed over the talismans for the monthly shop restocking directly to Lu Chongqing. The number of talismans wasn't large, consisting of 3 supreme talismans, 30 superior grade talismans, and 30 middle grade talismans. This made Lu Chongqing secretly wonder if the fourth elder drew only 1 superior grade and 1 middle grade talisman each day. However, he also remembered that the Lu family had several shops in other marketplaces, and the fourth elder probably needed to supply a portion of the talismans there as well. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed, and Lu Chongqing took Lu Miaoga back to Nine Dragons Market. Seeing Lu Chongqing return with Guan Xian, Lu Miaoga sighed softly. After all, just last month, she had told Lu Chongqing that cultivation level and strength are fundamental. Lu Chongqing at that time also firmly agreed. But it hadn't been long since then, and not only did he buy a maid at Nine Dragons Market, but he also brought another maid from home. Nevertheless, she wasn't one to talk too much. Once she had said something, it was enough, and she wouldn't bring it up a second time. After returning to Nine Dragons Market, Lu Chongqing used the housing deed to issue Guan Xian a free residency card and settled her in comfortably. He instructed her to communicate with Xiao Qing about anything she needed. Now in this place, Xiao Qing was mainly in charge. In the time that followed, Lu Chongqing resumed his comfortable life of daily cultivation, talisman making, childbearing, and going to and from work. During this period, he came over to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Chongqing. For someone as amiable as Lu Chongqing was naturally polite, chatting over tea for half an hour and enriching He's understanding considerably. 10 days later, Lu Chongqing learned that Xiao Qing was pregnant. He was extremely joyful at this news. After all, Xiao Qing possessed a 9th grade spiritual root, which greatly increased the chances of having a child with a spiritual root. But then, a faint worry emerged in his heart. Whenever there was something to be done, he had always relied on Xiao Qing. Now that Xiao Qing was pregnant, it wasn't good to have her bustling about anymore. Thinking that anybody capable of working by his side would soon be pregnant and unable to work, he realized that he would never have someone stable by his side to handle tasks. I need to find someone, specifically to do the work, to be the steward of this courtyard, Lu Chongqing thought to himself. His mind suddenly turned to the bee-steered girls of White Jade Tower. These bee-steered girls were cultivated by White Jade Tower through special methods and secret techniques, rendering them barren. Purchasing one as a steward seemed like a good idea. However, these bee-steered girls were quite expensive. They typically cost several tens of spirit stones, easily exceeding 100 spirit stones. A suitable one for his liking would no doubt cost over 100 spirit stones. To spend over 100 spirit stones on a bee-steered girl seemed too wasteful to Lu Chongqing, especially since he was in urgent need of spirit stones at the moment. No, that's not right. I'm not a stud horse, nor is it that women in my yard must become pregnant. If I arrange for 2 maids specifically to do the work and ensure they don't become pregnant, that should do. Lu Chongqing came back to his senses, somewhat speechless at his previous thoughts, feeling that he had fallen into a mental trap thinking about childbearing day after day. As a cultivator, he might not be able to guarantee that a woman would become pregnant, but ensuring that a woman doesn't become pregnant was still within his capabilities. Remembering that he still had 7 maids at White Jade Tower yet to be sent to him, he anticipated they would arrive soon. Lu Chongqing decided to pick 2 of them to be in charge of household affairs when they arrived. The next day, Gao He came over again to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Chongqing. This made Lu Chongqing shake his head in amusement. In his opinion, as neighbors, this sort of thing should just be an occasional conversation. If they really wanted to talk, there wasn't much to talk about in this area. Mainly because the 2 were not on the same level. Discussing the talisman path with Gao He was like a professor discussing elementary school homework with a grade school student. However, he also knew that it was his own insightful performances during their past conversations that had led to Gao He's improvements in the talisman path, which is why he kept coming back. This time, Lu Chongqing was careful to appear comparatively more ordinary. One reason was to discourage Gao He from constantly coming to him to talk about the talisman path, and another was that he couldn't show off too much since he was outwardly just a middle-grade talisman master. In the course of their chat, Lu Chongqing also inquired about the business model and daily operations of Gao He's spiritual talisman shop, to see if there was anything he could learn for himself. Gao He didn't conceal anything and shared the truth. The spiritual talisman shop he presided over was quite similar in business model to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, only lacking in supply, quality control, and variety of talismans compared to the Lu family's shop. Lu Chongqing nodded slightly, gaining a basic understanding. In fact, whether it's a spirit talisman shop, an elixir medicines shop, a magic artifact shop, or a formation shop, etc., as long as you have the strength, your business won't do poorly. It can certainly thrive. For the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, in addition to the renown of Qingzhu and the Lu family, the core competitive power lies in the 4th Elder's 3 supreme talismans and 30 superior grade talismans. As long as I keep up the prize draws, maybe I can become a full-time craftsman. By then, I can train my children in this direction or cultivate more craftsmen, ensuring not only a stable income for the family but also sparing my children from having to fight to the death outside to earn resources. Chapter 100. I, Lu Chongqing, a full-time artisan, _for after all, what I seek is stability, and having everything stable outweighs everything else. Lu Chongqing thought again about his future path. 3 days later, a servant from White Jade Tower came over, indicating that the maids Lu Chongqing had purchased had been delivered. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing and the servant went to White Jade Tower. He was greeted by the same charming and seductive Feng Junyang as always. Every time he saw Feng Junyang, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but sigh in admiration. What a stunning beauty! Master Lu, are you satisfied? Feng Junyang led the 7 maids over and asked Lu Chongqing. Lu Chongqing didn't continue using the name Han Li. He revealed his real name. After all, he just impulsively borrowed a false name at the time. And he knew that the manager of White Jade Tower obviously knew his true identity. There was no point in hiding it anymore. Otherwise, it felt weird every time he was addressed as Master Han, and he would have to explain it to the maids he bought afterwards. No problem. Lu Chongqing looked at the 7 utterly charming and distinct maids before him and nodded. These 7 maids were not only beautiful and well-formed. Some of them were skilled in martial arts and had practiced charming lady elemental cultivation. Otherwise, for mere ordinary maids, he wouldn't have spent 116 spirit stones to buy 9 maids. At White Jade Tower, you truly get what you pay for. After handing over the remaining spirit stones, Lu Chongqing took the spiritual contracts of the 7 women, left White Jade Tower with them, and went back to his residence. Walking down the street with the 7 enticing maids following him made Lu Chongqing turn many heads. Who is that young master? To be out and about with 7 charming lasses. Don't know him. He must be a young master from some family. Seems to be the new boss of the Qingzhu Lu family spirit talisman shop? That's the life I dream of. Humph, they're just ordinary mortal women. I could have as many of such women as I want. Look at their appearance, figure, and demeanor. They're obviously not average worldly women. I just saw him come out of White Jade Tower. Must have bought them there. To be rich, how nice. Indulging in pleasure and women. How can one cultivate in such a state? Exactly. This is nothing but decadent behavior. Passersby looked at Lu Chongqing with envy and jealousy, disdain, or measured up Lu Chongqing with different expressions. Many women also gave Lu Chongqing sidelong glances, and upon seeing his handsome face, tall and straight stature, and his composed and gentle demeanor, their eyes lit up with interest. Some female cultivators even mustered the courage to approach Lu Chongqing and struck up a conversation, asking whether he was married or if he had any intentions of taking a wife. Faced with such forward propositions, although Lu Chongqing was somewhat tempted, he declined them all. He stated he was already married and had no intentions of taking another wife at this time, though he might consider concubines and maids. His caution wasn't just personal prudence towards marriage. He also had considerations towards the Lu family. In his view, taking a few concubines and buying some maids to serve him was one thing, but constantly taking new wives would be disrespectful towards Lu Miaoyun and the Lu family. After all, it had been less than a year since he married Lu Miaoyun. Shortly thereafter, Lu Chongqing quickly returned home with the 7 women. Looks like in the future when buying maids from White Jade Tower, he'll either bring them back in batches or have White Jade Tower deliver them directly to my home. Otherwise, this kind of situation is a bit too conspicuous. Not only does it feel like being watched like a monkey, but it could even lead to being targeted as a fat sheep. Back home, Lu Chongqing reflected inwardly. Regarding the envious glances and propositions from the passers-by on the road, he didn't feel any bit of swagger. Instead, he felt uneasy, worried about becoming a target. Little Qing, Xiao Yuyao, and Guan Xian, seeing their young master bringing back 7 delightful maids all at once, didn't know what to say for a moment. But remembering Lu Changsheng's abundant energy at night, they soon came to terms with it, knowing that before long all 7 would likely be pregnant. From now on you'll be called Yilian, you'll be called Hong Mian, you'll be called Zimei, you'll be called Songlan. And at this moment Lu Chongqing began naming his newly arrived 7 maids. The previous 2 maids he had named Haitang and Bai He, so he thought it would be good to unify the names. Yes, master. These maids were all very sensible. That night, Lu Chongqing also began to understand and experience the exceptional treasures that Lu Miaoqing once mentioned. Chapter 101. Dare 2 mere energy refinement late-stage cultivators to ambush me? _1 Sister Miaoga. Miaoyun might give birth in a few days, so I plan to leave for Qingzhou Mountain today. That day, Lu Chongqing went to the spiritual talisman shop and said to Lu Miaoga. He had already discussed this matter with Lu Miaoga before, planning to go back these 2 months in advance, to try to be there when Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zenshin's child is born. All right, be careful on your way. They'll keep an eye on the shop here. Hearing this, Lu Miaoga nodded slightly and spoke softly. After saying farewell to Lu Miaoga, Lu Chongqing left 9 Dragons Marketplace alone, mounted the Iron Feather Eagle, and embarked on his journey to Qingzhou Mountain. Just as Lu Chongqing was exiting the gates of 9 Dragons Marketplace, at a restaurant nearby, a lean middle-aged man revealed a trace of unusual brightness in his eyes and took out a transmission talisman from his person. High above the clouds, an Iron Feather Eagle soared. Could it be that something unexpected will happen on my way home alone? Sitting cross-legged on the Iron Feather Eagle, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but worry. It was all right when he was with Lu Miaoga. It was only his first trip to 9 Dragons Market that he worried about potential mishaps. But after 2 round trips, he felt much better. Suddenly traveling alone now made him feel a bit uneasy again. Sigh, I really am a person who fears death and lacks a sense of security. Even with 34 superior grade talismans, 1 supreme talisman, and a talisman treasure on me, I still feel insecure. Lu Chongqing shook his head slightly with a clear understanding of himself. After the Iron Feather Eagle flew for half a day, the unease in Lu Chongqing's heart calmed down a lot. He thought, how could there be so many dangers? However, just at that moment, Screech the Iron Feather Eagle, soaring through the clouds, seemed to be stimulated by something, letting out a sharp and noisy cry. It made Lu Chongqing, who was sitting quietly on its back, feel his heart leap. Before he could understand what was happening, the Iron Feather Eagle spread its wings and dove towards a mountain peak below. What's going on? Lu Chongqing quickly grabbed the Iron Feather Eagle's feathers to avoid being thrown off and took out the Beast Control token. Through the Beast Control token, he could sense an anxious and restless emotion coming from the Iron Feather Eagle, as if something on the mountain peak ahead was luring it. Could it be that there's some rare treasure or spirit fruit maturing on that mountain peak? Lu Changsheng's first thought was that. However, he didn't entertain such thoughts, because it is recorded in the books that when most rare treasures and exotic fruits mature, powerful demon beasts will be guarding them. It wasn't something he, a mere 4th-level Qi refinement weakling, could contemplate. Lu Chongqing didn't think any further. He immediately used the Beast Control token to soothe the Iron Feather Eagle and commanded it to continue flying on the path. The Iron Feather Eagle, which was diving towards the mountain peak, hesitated slightly at his command. But the next moment, it let out an even noisier cry from its beak and furiously dove towards the mountain peak ahead. This is definitely not the maturation of some rare treasure. The Iron Feather Eagle, having been tamed, would normally never disobey an order and go out of control under normal circumstances. Lu Changsheng's face darkened, holding tightly to the Iron Feather Eagle, realizing something was not quite right. But facing this situation, he didn't know how to handle the emergency. As the Iron Feather Eagle got closer and closer to the mountain peak, suddenly, swoosh, swoosh, 2 sounds of slicing through the air rang out. Lu Chongqing immediately saw 2 sword lights shooting towards him like rainbows. The cold gleam of sword qi breathed in and out in the air, emitting a buzzing sound that intimidated the soul. Not good. In that moment, even if Lu Chongqing was slow to react, he realized that he was being ambushed. He understood why the Iron Feather Eagle had suddenly gone out of control. Without waiting to think more, 2 flying swords were already coming at him, one before the other. Clang! Clang! When the 2 flying swords neared his body, he saw a green qi barrier appearing around him, accompanied by the rustling sound of his magical robe fluttering, and a pale light from the spirit pendant on his chest, forming a water-blue shield, stopping the 2 flying swords outside. These were the passive body-protecting techniques of his robe's magic artifact and the spirit pendant. However, under the onslaught of the flying swords, both protective techniques dimmed considerably. Lu Changsheng's face darkened. Without time to be scared or hesitate, he immediately took out a talisman from his storage bag. He used a flying ascension talisman and a golden light barrier talisman on himself, causing the wind to rise under his feet and a sense of lightness to envelop him, allowing for brief flight, and a thick layer of golden bell enveloped him. Clang! Clang! The 2 sharp rainbow-like flying swords struck at Lu Chongqing again, colliding with the bell and producing 2 sonorous metallic sounds. Even with the protection of the golden bell shield talisman, Lu Chongqing felt a great force shock his body. But the shock didn't harm him. It merely made him somewhat unsteady on the back of the Iron Feather Eagle. Escape! Without hesitation, Lu Chongqing, aided by the flying ascension talisman, leaped into the air from the back of the Iron Feather Eagle and fled in the opposite direction. Now that he knew someone was setting him up, he also roughly guessed why the Iron Feather Eagle lost control and was frantically diving towards the mountain peak. It was certainly not because of some exotic fruit maturing. It was a demon-attracting fragrance, a kind of incense made specifically for demon beasts. It was capable of attracting demon beasts, making those with little spiritual intelligence be instinctively drawn by it, filled with wildness. Many hunters and cultivators would use demon-attracting fragrance to lure and hunt demon beasts. The way the Iron Feather Eagle was behaving, it was most likely affected by the demon-attracting fragrance. Chapter 102. 2 mere energy refinement late-stage cultivators dare to ambush me? So he had no choice but to abandon it. Trying to run. Where do you think you're going? I've been squatting on you for so long. Did you really think you could escape? Seeing Lu Chongqing trying to flee with the help of a flying ascension talisman, 2 figures, one fat and one skinny, immediately shot up into the sky from the mountain peak where the Iron Feather Eagle was diving. They were stepping on a round flying artifact, rapidly pursuing Lu Chongqing. controlling a flying artifact. Both these men are at the energy refinement late stage. When Lu Chongqing saw the two figures that appeared, his heart sank once again. He knew that with the speed granted by the Flying Ascension Talisman, he would never be able to outrun these two men. He decided to land on the spot and try to escape using an escape talisman. This kid was able to pull out 3 superior grade talismans. He must have other life-saving talismans on him. We absolutely cannot let him get away. However, these two were not simple characters. Both their eyesight and techniques were exceedingly shrewd. While chasing Lu Chongqing with the flying artifact, they controlled 2 flying swords to continue attacking him, blocking his escape route. They also cast various spells, treating him like a live target, causing the golden light around Lu Chongqing to rapidly dim. This won't work. In this situation, it's difficult to even land. Lu Chongqing knew that he was a live target. To rely on talismans to hold on until he landed and then try to escape using another talisman was very unlikely. Moreover, he didn't know whether the other two had other means of pursuit. The best plan was to retaliate and kill the 2 men. So what if it's the energy refinement late stage? They're just 2 energy refinement late stage cultivators. With the talismans and talisman treasures I have on me, should I be afraid of those at the energy refinement late stage? With a fierce look in his eyes, Lu Chongqing promptly applied another golden bell shield talisman to himself, ready to counterattack. Another golden bell shield talisman? This kid is just a middle-grade talisman master. How can he have so many superior-grade talismans? Indeed a fat sheep. All that waiting hasn't been in vain. The fat and skinny duo, seeing this, had their eyes gleaming sharply, filled with greed and viciousness. Just as they intensified their offensive, Lu Chongqing also turned around and threw out a batch of talismans. All of them were middle and lower grade talismans, about 20 in total. This was the most Lu Chongqing could stimulate at once with his mental spirit. Any more than that, and he wouldn't be able to control them properly. Under the control of Lu Chongqing's mental spirit and spiritual power, these talismans transformed into fireballs, rolling boulders, ice spikes, wind blades, sharp arrows, cold winds. With a ferocious momentum, they all howled towards the fat and tall duo. So many talismans? The dark fat man, upon seeing this, was shocked and hurriedly brought out an earthy yellow shield magic artifact to block this overwhelming offensive. Lu Chongqing's talismans hit the shield, only creating thuds. While resisting the attack, the dark fat man called out to the skinny white man, "Stop dilly-dallying. Get rid of this kid quickly. Otherwise, if we let him use up all his talismans, we'll be at a huge loss." In their eyes, everything on Lu Chongqing was as good as in their pockets. Every talisman used was like spending their money. The skinny white man didn't reply, but he harbored the same thoughts, his eyes flashing dangerously. He slapped his storage bag, and with a spell gesture, summoned a cold gleaming curved saber magic artifact. Like a crescent moon, the curved saber flew towards Lu Chongqing with a swiftness that cut through the air. However, at this moment, Lu Chongqing also applied another golden light barrier talisman on himself, and simultaneously cast 3 more talismans. The previous assortment of middle and lower grade talismans was just the appetizer. It was merely to distract them for a moment. Now was the main event. Hum! A sound like thunder rumbled through the void, causing the air to tremble slightly. Superior grade talisman. Soul-shaking talisman. It was designed to shock the mental spirit of others, inducing panic, fear, and unease. The soul-shaking talisman used by Lu Chongqing caught the fat and skinny duo somewhat off guard. In that moment, their minds went blank, overwhelmed by fear, and they were momentarily dazed. However, right in that instant, boom, boom, 2 talismans flew out, and shrouded in purple lightning, turning into 2 violent thunderstrikes aimed at the 2 men. Superior grade talisman, thunder summoning talisman. It could summon a thunderstrike comparable to a 9th level energy refinement cultivator strike. Even normally, the 2 men would struggle to cope with such a thunder summoning talisman. Especially now, caught off guard by the soul-shaking talisman, their mental spirits compromised. Boom! Boom! The shield magic artifact that the dark fat man had summoned, already barely holding up under the relentless barrage of talismans, could hardly block at all. When the thunderstrike hit, the earthy yellow shield flew straight out of his hands, and while he was still not back to his senses, was overwhelmed by the talisman offensive. The skinny white man, with a somewhat stronger will and mental spirit, quickly regained his composure. His eyes flashed with lightning, and he frantically generated a body-protecting chi barrier around himself. But at that moment it was already too late. Ah! No! The body-protecting chi barrier shattered like flimsy paper under the ferocious attack of the thunder-summoning talisman. Soon after, the man let out a roar of unwillingness and disbelief. Suddenly, 2 charred bodies fell from the sky. Both bodies turned to char, crumbling into ash in midair. The curved saber magic artifact that was still attacking Lu Changsheng's golden light barrier lost spiritual power support and fell straight down from the sky. They're dead just like that? Holding the thunder talisman and golden light barrier talisman treasure, Lu Changsheng, still ready to continue, saw that the 2 men were turned to char under the attack of the thunder-summoning talisman and fell from the sky. He was momentarily stunned. It was just getting started, and the 2 men were already gone. But in an instant, he understood clearly that the battles between cultivators often ended in the blink of an eye. Chapter 103. 2 mere energy refinement late-stage cultivators dare to ambush me? A single misstep, a mere carelessness, could easily result in death and the end of one's path in cultivation. Although both of them were formidable, they were only cultivators at the energy refinement late stage, let alone facing a first-grade, high-quality thunder-summoning talisman. Without enough preparation to defend oneself, a single middle-grade talisman could potentially cost one their life directly. At this time, Lu Chongqing finally let out a slight sigh of relief. He let the heart that had been stuck in his throat settle down. That was close. Without my magical robe and the cold jade pendant, I wouldn't have even had a chance to use a talisman when that flying sword suddenly came at me. Lu Chongqing swallowed with his dry throat, filled with lingering fear in his heart. He felt that his awareness of danger was still severely lacking. At the first sign of the Iron Feather Eagle losing control, he should have sensed the danger, become alert, and been ready to defend himself. Instead of waiting like just now, realizing the problem was dangerous only after the flying sword had come out and was about to strike. My experience in this area is seriously lacking. Lu Chongqing let out another breath, licked his lips, and silently thought. He also knew that such awareness couldn't be improved overnight. It needed to be accumulated and cultivated. He planned to prepare more body-protecting magic artifacts for himself after returning to Nine Dragons Market, ensuring he was fully armed. Otherwise, if he encountered this situation again or met robber cultivators more formidable than those 2, the protective techniques of the magical robe and cold jade pendant would be insufficient. Based on the conversation between those 2 just now, it seems like they were specifically waiting for me here. I've always been kind to others, never offended anyone, and have no enemies. Why would anyone be lying in wait for me? The only possibility is that I was targeted in Nine Dragons Market? Lu Chongqing thought about his expenditures in the Nine Dragons Market over the past couple of months. If someone paid attention, they could see that he was quite wealthy, a juicy target. There's a saying that one shouldn't flaunt their wealth. Once you show your wealth, you're likely to be targeted. While Nine Dragons Market may be safe, it does not mean that the people within are all good. As soon as you leave Nine Dragons Market, any cultivator inside could potentially become a robber cultivator. Moreover, as a 4th-level energy refinement cultivator, in the eyes of most cultivators, I am nothing but a piece of fat meat, a child holding gold. Lu Chongqing also understood this point and didn't dwell on it, deciding to be more cautious going forward. He looked around and saw no trace of other people. Immediately, he used a flying ascension talisman to descend towards the ground to collect his spoils of war. Just now, both men turned to charred bodies and ash under the onslaught of talismans. leaving only their robes and boots wrapped around the remains. These must be magic artifacts, right? Lu Chongqing looked at the clothes and boots, his eyes lighting up. If these were ordinary clothes, they would not have survived the talisman attack just now. He stepped forward and performed a cleansing technique, cleaning away the remnants and ashes inside the robe and shoes, then picked up the robe to examine it. Under the attack of the talismans just now, the robes had suffered slight damages and were probably only of lower grade. Inside both robes he found a storage bag. This brought a hint of joy to Lu Changsheng's face. After all, in such a perilous fight of life and death, the spoils were the only thing worth looking forward to. He did not check the contents of the two storage bags right away, choosing to pocket them first. He then searched around and found both men's flying artifacts, flying swords, as well as shield artifacts and curved saber artifacts. After collecting everything, Lu Chongqing felt that this haul should be quite substantial. He took out the beast control token to sense the condition of the Iron Feather Eagle. If the Iron Feather Eagle were gone, getting back to Qingzhou Mountain would be quite troublesome for him. Even if he got back to the Nine Dragons Market, he would only be able to do so by running. Through the beast control token, he could sense a faint connection with the Iron Feather Eagle. It should still be on the peak. As I suspected, the two robber cultivators must have used demon beast lure to send the Iron Feather Eagle out of control, rushing to the mountaintop, he thought. An Iron Feather Eagle is worth hundreds of spirit stones. As robber cultivators out for wealth, they naturally wouldn't harm the Iron Feather Eagle, he reasoned. Otherwise, when I was riding on the Iron Feather Eagle, they would have attacked it directly instead of me, he deduced. Lu Chongqing thought for a moment and decided to go to the peak to retrieve the Iron Feather Eagle. Seeing that the effects of the Flying Ascension Talisman on him were wearing off, Lu Chongqing gritted his teeth, took out another talisman, and used it on himself. Then, with caution in his heart, he hastened toward the mountaintop. Though only 2 people had come to assassinate him just now, they likely didn't have accomplices. But given what had just happened, it was best to be extra cautious. Moreover, demon beasts might also be present between these forested mountains. When Lu Chongqing arrived at the peak with great caution, he immediately saw a light brown incense stick as big as an adult's arm, burning on a giant boulder on the mountaintop. Thick white wisps of smoke were slowly floating upward, spreading into the air. Meanwhile, the Iron Feather Eagle was next to the incense, squawking violently and uneasily. "It really is demon beast lure," he confirmed. "It seems these two went to great lengths to ambush me, preparing well in advance and putting in a lot of effort," he surmised. "Wait a minute, I left the Nine Dragons Market ahead of schedule to go home. How could they calculate my movements so accurately if they were lying in wait out here?" he wondered. "Surely, they can't be lighting a demon beast lure every day in advance, can they?" he questioned. "And looking at this demon beast lure, it appears to have only been burning for about 2 or 3 hours, he observed. Lu Changsheng's eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the burning demon beast lure in front of him. He sensed that something was amiss. The attackers must have another accomplice. This accomplice was likely in the Nine Dragons Market, watching him in secret. The moment he left the Nine Dragons Market, they would signal here. Otherwise, how could they be so precise? After all, the Iron Feather Eagle was already quite fast. To prepare even faster, only a transmission talisman would do. It seems they'll need to be even more careful when I return to the Nine Dragons Market, he reflected inwardly. He didn't approach the violently uneasy Iron Feather Eagle. He took out a water bullet talisman, activated it to form a water bullet, and shot it at the demon beast lure to extinguish it. With the scent extinguished, the Iron Feather Eagle calmed down quite a bit. Lu Chongqing used the beast control token to attempt to command the Iron Feather Eagle and assess its condition. But he found that the Iron Feather Eagle was still in a disturbed animalistic state, not very obedient to commands. It will probably take at least a day for the effects of the demon beast lure on the Iron Feather Eagle to wear off, he estimated. Lu Chongqing sighed, feeling somewhat helpless. He knew it would take quite some time for the incense that provoked the demon beast's instincts to fade completely. Right away, he took out a spirit-nourishing pill and threw it to the Iron Feather Eagle to help stabilize its mood by eating. Then he used the beast control token to store the Iron Feather Eagle back into the spiritual pet bag, planning to find a cave to hide in for the time being. Otherwise, if he waited here for the Iron Feather Eagle to recover, the accomplices of the two robber cultivators from earlier might arrive any moment. Chapter 104. Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. _1 Lu Chongsheng, using a flying ascension talisman, flew at full force and arrived at a cliff cave several miles away. He used a purification talisman to check himself all over, to see if there were any tricks left behind. After confirming there were no problems, he began to clean up the loot in the 2 storage bags. In total, there were 362 spirit stones, 3 lower-grade magic artifacts and 1 middle-grade magic artifact, a number of elixir medicines, a number of spiritual medicines, a number of talismans, a bunch of miscellaneous items. Lu Chongxing estimated that these items were worth 600 to 700 spirit stones. Adding the vestment robe, magic boots, flying sword, shield, curved saber, and flying artifact he had just acquired, it casually amounted to over 1,000 spirit stones. Could be said to be a huge sum of money. A hint of joy appeared on his face. This haul was much more significant than what he had collected before at Bullhead Mountain. One could only say that there were different levels of robber cultivators. Being a robber cultivator at a place like Nine Dragons Market was certainly more prosperous than in a mundane place like Bullhead Mountain. Of course, the risk was also much higher. Lu Chongxing took out a high-grade purification talisman and purified all the items to check if there were any problems. Indeed, under the effect of the purification talisman, 3 items showed signs of branding marks. After destroying these items along with some other suspicious ones that he did not recognize, Lu Chongxing continued to flee to another place. Thinking that fleeing on his own could leave traces and scents, and also consume too much spiritual power and physical strength, Lu Chongxing immediately took out an escape talisman and used it. Suddenly, spiritual light surged around him, enveloping his entire being as he dove into the ground, traveling swiftly like a mole before bursting forth. In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Lu Chongxing appeared several miles away. Phew! As soon as Lu Chongxing emerged from the ground, he breathed in the air. He immediately smelled a stench. Gurgle! He turned his head and saw, not far off, a black wild boar over 2 to 3 meters tall and 5 to 6 meters long, with hair like pine needles, staring at him. Its snout was puffing white smoke, and its tusks were sharp and fierce. A demon beast. With one look at the large wild boar, Lu Chongxing's heart skipped a beat, knowing that it was not an animal, but a demon beast. Gurgle! Before he could take another look, the large boar let out a low roar, its tusks emitting a faint black light, and charged straight at him. Seeing this, Lu Chongxing quickly took out a mid to lower grade talisman to use. The talisman burst into light, transforming into a barrier of water and light that protected him. Then vines and earthen prisons appeared, trapping the boar, followed by a barrage of fireballs, wind blades, and arrows bombarding the beast. Boom, boom, boom. A woo, a woo, a woo. Under the onslaught of 10 to 20 talismans, the boar let out a mournful howl before it could get close to Lu Chongxing. Its body scorched black, blood gushing out. It eventually collapsed with a cry of agony. This should only be a first-grade beginner demon beast. Perhaps I could have killed it with my flying sword with a bit of effort. This feels rather wasteful. Lu Chongxing looked at the fallen boar and shook his head slightly. Just one of his talismans cost tens to almost 100 spirit stones. And a beast like this, if sold, probably would fetch around 100 spirit stones only. Moreover, with its body so severely damaged by his talisman assault, the price would definitely be a lot lower. Forget it. Such a small thing isn't worth skimping on. After all, I only have one life. I'd rather waste a bit than make a single mistake. Lu Chongxing consoled himself with a word, not feeling too heartbroken. He took out his flying sword, roughly butchered the large wild boar, and stuffed it into his storage bag. Storing demon beast meat in the storage bag also had a shelf life. Probably after 7 or 8 days, the quality of the meat would be affected. However, upon returning to Qingzhou Mountain, besides consuming it himself, he could also feed it to the 9 Netherhound. Over the past 2 years, he had mostly fed the 9 Netherhound ordinary raw meat, only occasionally giving it demon beast flesh to eat. Couldn't be helped, as feeding it demon beast meat every day was too expensive to maintain. If he weren't worried about accidents, he would have liked to find a mountain range to let the 9 Netherhound roam free. Waiting for the 9 Netherhound to grow through constant battles and struggles to become a demon king of its own territory, then come back to carry him soaring. After cleaning up the surroundings, Lu Chongqing began looking for a place to settle down for the night. He planned to rest for a day and then leave when the Iron Feather Eagle had recovered. During this process, to avoid encountering other demon beasts, Lu Chongqing was very careful and cautious. He eventually came across a tiger demon beast in a cave. Without hesitation, Lu Chongqing used a talisman to instantly kill the first-grade beginner tiger demon and entered the cave. He planned to spend the night here. It's just for one night. Nothing else should happen, right? Lu Chongqing lay on the tiger skin rug, feeling somewhat weary. While the use of talismans did not drain him, using so many had taken quite a toll on his mental spirit. After taking a couple of sips of white jade 100 flowers wine, Lu Chongqing took out a spirit stone and began to meditate and cultivate. The night gradually fell. In the wilderness between the forests, the sounds of wild animals roaring and shrieking filled the night, making it very unsettling. At this time, dozens of miles away, atop a mountain peak, screech! A giant eagle with pitch-black feathers and wings spanning several zhang landed. On the back of the black eagle stood a stout, middle-aged man. The man, dressed in a black robe, seemed to blend in with the night. He hopped down from the back of the eagle, his eyes gleaming faintly in the night, and began to inspect the surroundings. After checking the surroundings, Zhou Guanglong muttered to himself, "It looks like I've been outdone. Just a Qi refinement 4th level young master, and he possesses such strength and means?" Then, with a light step, his agile figure leaped into the air and landed back on the eagle's back. Chapter 105. Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. The black-winged eagle immediately soared into the night sky. It hadn't flown far when suddenly, a violent surge of light erupted in the distance. This light was so brilliant that it was like a great sun ascending in the night sky, too dazzling to look at directly. What is this? Zhou Guanglong on the back of the black-winged eagle looked toward the source of the light. But with his peak Qi refinement cultivation level, he couldn't see it clearly. As the light dimmed slightly, a clash of colorful halos and black-red tornadoes could be seen colliding together, erupting with thunderous booms. Boom, boom, boom. The two streams of light moved across the sky, constantly colliding and sweeping across, unleashing a heavenly turbulence. The shock waves that landed on the mountains below caused them to tremble violently and crumble incessantly. The fierce birds and beasts in the forest were so frightened that they trembled and fled in all directions. This is a battle between nascent soul immortals. Zhou Guanglong finally made out that within the colorful halos and the black-red tornadoes, there were faintly visible figures, a woman dressed in colorful garments and an old man in red robes. They exchanged blows, lighting up the night sky and making the clouds roll and unfold. Run, we must quickly escape from here. Seeing that the two nascent soul immortals were moving in his direction, he immediately urged his black-winged eagle to leave quickly. However, at this moment, the large black eagle beneath him, under the astonishing aura in the distance, had already begun to let out cries of fear. Damn it! I've raised you for so long, and at the critical moment, you're totally unreliable. Zhou Guanglong cursed, seeing his pet mount tremble. But he knew that although his black-winged eagle had high-rank bloodline, it was after all only at late 1st grade. In the face of such terrifying auras from nascent soul immortals, it would instinctively feel fear and terror. It wasn't just pets. He himself was also panicking. After all, this was a battle between nascent soul immortals. If even a slight shockwave hit him, he would be either dead or crippled. Right then, he had the black-winged eagle land straight away, planning to find a place to hide. Otherwise, being in the air was just too conspicuous. He might be noticed by one of the battling nascent soul immortals who found him bothersome and killed him with a flick of their hand. In the night sky, the woman in colorful garments wielded a long sword, and with every swing, rocks and debris were sent flying, creating countless waves. Yun Wanshang, you can't escape. You've been touched by my red phoenix karma fire, so you'd better surrender willingly. However, the old man in red robes was shrouded in black-red mist that gradually turned pink, making the sword light pass through him without effect, piercing right through him. Ha 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 around the old man. The pink mist churned, stirring up strong winds and agitating the spiritual energy around him. Amidst the mist, the sound of men's and women's soft moans constantly assailed the mental spirit, stirring up inner desires. So this is a nascent soul immortal, truly terrifying. Zhou Guanglong had just landed when a shockwave hit close by. The terrifying force made his blood roil, and where the shockwave hit the ground, a crater several zhang wide appeared. He was not only at the peak of qi refinement but also practiced body refinement. Yet even just a touch of a shockwave made him sense danger. He dashed towards another area, while keeping an eye on the shockwaves above to avoid getting hit. If he died like this, it would be unjust and frustrating. After running for a while, he saw the woman with the long sword in the night sky summon an ancient mirror above her head. This ancient mirror flowed with golden light, which shone like a great sun in the night sky, and shot a fierce light at the old man in red robes. Then with one slash of her sword, a bright golden divine thunder appeared in the sky. Ah, Yun Wanshang, you've actually mastered the divine sword thunder commandment. Confronted by the golden divine thunder, the old man in red robes let out a pitiful, shrieking howl, with blood spurting from his mouth. Yun Wanshang, divine sword thunder commandment. Could this colorful robed woman be none other than Kaiyun true immortal from Qingyun sect? Who is this old man in red robes daring to strike a Qingyun sect's Kaiyun true immortal within the territory of Jiang country? Zhou Guanglong, hiding in the woods, felt terrified upon hearing the scream in the air. But in the next moment, he saw the old man in red robes bring out a small cauldron, from which red flames billowed, setting the heavens ablaze and causing a rain of fire to fall from the sky. Zhou Guanglong was petrified, and without hesitation, he pulled out a hammer-shaped magical artifact to smash out a cave in the nearby mountain wall, where he quickly hid himself. He also took out an umbrella-shaped magical artifact to block the entrance to the cave to avoid being hit by the rain of fire. Truly, when immortals fight, mortals suffer. I, Zhou Guanglong, am at least a figure of some status and have seen all sorts of scenes. But in front of nascent soul immortals, I am nothing but an ant. Zhou Guanglong gasped for breath in the cave. Soon, there was a shaking of the ground and tremors of the mountain, and after a while, things seemed to calm down outside. Just as he was considering whether to go out, he heard voices talking outside. Yun Wanshang, you're being burnt by the red phoenix karma fire. If you don't unite with me, your death is certain. If you agree to unite with me, using your Tongyu Phoenix marrow body to heal me and aid my cultivation, I, Huyen Xiao, am willing to make the heart demon great oath and henceforth be loyal to you. An old and weak voice rang out. Red Phoenix old demon Huyen Xiao? Zhou Guanglong immediately recognized the identity of the old man in red robes upon hearing the conversation outside. He was also a nascent soul immortal of Jiang country, a loose cultivator by origin, but due to his domineering behavior and disregard for all prohibitions, he was also called Red Phoenix Old Demon. He never would have thought that this Red Phoenix Old Demon would dare to lay hands on a Qingyun sect nascent soul immortal and even seek to practice cultivation in union with her. Cough, cough. You can dream on. A crisp and icy voice responded. If you refuse, the karma fire will surge, and if it erupts, both of us will die here today. Chapter 106. Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. In the Red Phoenix true scripture I cultivate, there is a dual cultivation secret technique, As long as you're willing to become my Tao companion, in the future we both may have hope for nascent soul. The voice of Red Luan Old Demon was weak as he continued to speak. Huff, I'd rather die than cough cough. Let you? The cool voice of Cloud Gown Fairy rose, but it became more hurried with panting breaths. Your body is already burning with red phoenix karma fire. I wonder how much longer you can suppress it. Cough cough cough. The voice of Red Luan Old Demon was weak and sinister. You huff huff, want you come out? At that moment, Cloud Gown Fairy's voice grew louder and more urgent, also carrying a captivating charm. Zhou Quanglong in the cave knew that the Fairy of Colorful Clouds was addressing himself. Although he possessed the peak Qi refinement cultivation level, how could he possibly conceal it from this nascent soul immortal? Another person? Cough cough. The voice of Red Luan Old Demon grew colder. Zhou Quanglong walked out from the cave and saw immediately in front of him a woman lying on the ground, clad in a colorful, radiant flowing gown made of gauze. The woman appeared to be in her mid-20s, her hair lightly coiled up and fixed with a glaze hairpin. A breathtakingly beautiful face at this moment flushed like peach blossoms, her slightly dazed beautiful eyes and slightly parted lips gently panting. Although he only heard of her great reputation and had never seen her in person, he knew at this moment that this supremely elegant woman was none other than the Fairy of Colorful Clouds, Yun Wanshang, from Qing Yun sect. Not too far away on the ground lay a rugged-faced old man in red robes. Presumably, he was Red Luan Old Demon. The old demon looked unspeakably miserable. Not only was he vomiting blood, but there was also a huge sword wound cavity in his chest, with golden sword energy rampaging within it, making his whole Bodis aura chaotic and struggling desperately. I am an elder of Qing Yun sect, Yun Wanshang, and this person is Red Luan Old Demon. As long as you help me eliminate him, my Qing Yun sect will surely thank you heavily. Huff huff huff. Yun Wanshang said to Zhou Quanglong, but now her face was flushed like peach blossoms, and even speaking seemed very hard for her. Kid, don't listen to her. What benefits can her Qing Yun sect offer you? I suppose you're just one step from foundation establishment, right? You only need to bring her to me to help me heal, and afterwards, I will take you as my disciple, assist you in foundation establishment, and even core formation is not impossible. Seeing the situation, Red Luan Old Demon quickly spoke. Zhou Quanglong paused upon hearing the words of the two, glanced at Yun Wanshang, and then at Red Luan Old Demon. Kid, rest assured, I am willing to make a heart demon great oath. As long as you are willing to lend me a hand, even if I can't guarantee true elixir for you afterward, I will ensure you form a false core. Red Luan Old Demon pressed his advantage. Your words are witnessed here. Hearing this, Zhou Quanglong was visibly shaken and spoke. He took the path of a robber cultivator to strive for foundation establishment and become a foundation establishment great cultivator. As for core formation, that was something he didn't even dare to dream of. At this moment, moved by Red Luan Old Demon's promise of a false core, he was tremendously tempted. After all, Qing Yun sect was not even within his considerations. If his actions were known by Qing Yun sect, even if the sect forgave him, he would not receive any substantial benefits. Huff, huff, huff. How can you believe the words of this demon head? Huff, huff, huff. Yun Wanshang, seeing Zhou Quanglong seemingly decide with Red Luan Old Demon, showed a trace of panic in her dazed beautiful eyes, gasping as she spoke. I, Huyan Xiao, have never sworn an oath in my life. If you don't believe me, cough, cough, cough. I can swear now. I, Huyan Xiao, swear that today. Red Luan Old Demon, unable to move as he lay on the ground, forcibly lifted his palm and began to swear. For cultivators, a heart demon oath, the higher the cultivation level, the more binding it is. Seeing him take the oath, Zhou Quanglong immediately knelt before the old man and said, Disciple Zhou Quanglong pays respect to master. Cough, 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 very good. Good disciple. Quickly bring your master's wife over to me. She is currently entangled by my red phoenix karma fire, her desires rising like a tide. As soon as I ignite it with my mana, it will erupt instantly. Red Phoenix Demon immediately bared his teeth and spoke. Yes, master. Zhou Guanglong nodded slightly and walked towards Yun Wansheng. Seeing Zhou Guanglong approaching, a flash of resolution appeared in Yun Wansheng's eyes. Her cultivation method and physique were special. If given time to recuperate, she could suppress the Red Phoenix karma fire. But unexpectedly, a cultivator nearby chose to assist the Red Phoenix Demon. She could only sigh in resignation to fate and time. Immediately, she slapped her storage bag with mana meant to suppress the karma fire. And suddenly, a fist-sized purple bead appeared from the storage bag. Hoo hoo hoo! The bead burst into light, thunder and earth fire filling the air, and directly turned Zhou Guanglong and Red Phoenix Demon into ashes. At that moment, the only clarity left in Yun Wansheng's beautiful eyes vanished. Her body quickly became hot, her skin like creamy white jade visibly turning pink. And just then, as if by instinct, she sensed something in the midst of the void and shot out like a divine rainbow. Meanwhile, not far away inside a cave. Holy shit! It's finally quiet. The power and commotion just now, what level of fighting was that? It was terrifying, Lu Chongqing said. Seeing that there was no noise outside and everything was completely quiet, he breathed a long sigh of relief and let the anxiety that had been caught in his throat dissipate. Anyone cultivating quietly at night would panic if suddenly there were rumbles, and two people began to fight, causing earthquakes and landslides. Sigh, I'll head back early tomorrow morning as soon as the Iron Feather Eagle recovers. I won't run back and forth anymore. It's better to bring Miaoyun and Jinjin directly to the Nine Dragons Market from now on, he pondered. Otherwise, constantly traveling back and forth, I might encounter danger. Lu Chongqing thought to himself, feeling it's best not to leave the house if it isn't necessary. The outside world is just too dangerous. However, at that moment, a fragrant breeze suddenly wafted over. Before him appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, an exquisitely beautiful woman wearing colorful garments. Lu Chongqing was taken aback by the sudden appearance of this breathtakingly beautiful woman. He hadn't even grasped how she had appeared. This woman was none other than Yun Wansheng. Her face was flushed, her alluring eyes as soft as autumn water, filled with lust as she looked directly at Lu Chongqing and pounced on him. Lu Chongqing was immediately pinned down by the woman and could not move. He struggled several times, but to no avail. He could clearly feel the heat of the woman's body before him. It felt like a raging fire was burning. He knew that her condition meant either she had been poisoned or was experiencing cultivation deviation. Fairy, please comport yourself. Lu Chongqing called out a few times, but the woman, out of her senses, didn't respond to his calls. Instead, she pinned him underneath her, and her moist lips came closer to kiss him. Who could withstand such a situation? Looking at the heavenly beauty before him, feeling her mature and soft body pressed against him, the intoxicating fragrance of her breath, Lu Chongqing let out a soft sigh. If this situation was inescapable, then there was no point in resisting. He might as well choose to enjoy it. Lu Chongqing lay back sprawled and relaxed. Afterward, the cave resounded with intense activity that lasted for a moment before a magical robe was thrown at the entrance of the cave. After a while, several more pieces of clothing were tossed out, including the intimate garments of the woman. Chapter 107. You feel wronged, but I feel wronged too. _1 in the cave. Lu Chongqing sat naked, hugging his knees, pitifully and helplessly crouching in the corner of the wall. He resembled a ravished fine lady or gentleman, looking aggrievedly at the stunning beauty in front of him. The beauty was draped in a multicolored gown that seemed made of rosy clouds, her eyes like autumn pools, her brows like distant mountains, her nose was high and proud, her lips red and moist as if dripping with color, her black hair slightly unkempt, loosely draped over her shoulders. Beneath the hem of her gown, a pair of snow-white delicate feet were bare, as if carved from jade and sculpted from snow, utter perfection, glimmering with a faint crystal sheen. The curve of her ankle was graceful, slender yet full, and the arch of her foot was curved like the moon, drawing an exquisitely beautiful arc. Her 5 toes were symmetrically neat, like white jade grapes, uncolored yet showing a rosy translucence, moist and tempting, inciting an urge in one to gently touch and play with them. In these 3 days, every part of this exquisite Bowtai's body, every inch of her skin, had been appreciated and touched by Lu Chongqing. But at this moment, her voluptuous and tender, enticing jade body took on a different aura when clothed in this garment. It was entirely different from the demeanor, posture, and expressions Lu Chongqing had seen in these 3 days. It was as if she had become a different person. Although her qi seemed somewhat disordered, she looked extraordinarily noble, like the lofty 9 heavens' mysterious lady, untouched by worldly dust. One glance at her would make one feel ashamed, invoking a sense of unworthiness and a fear to blaspheme. She appeared to be right before one's eyes, yet she felt incredibly distant, making it hard to discern her face, hard to reach out to, like a celestial maiden in the clouds, ready to ride the wind away at any moment. Yun Wanshang also looked indifferently at Lu Chongqing before her. Within the depths of her eyes, which flowed like the Milky Way, there was a great complexity. She had always been proud and focused on her cultivation. Since embarking on the path of cultivation, over the past 100 years, she had encountered countless young heroes and genius demons. Yet not one of them had ever stirred her heart. But today, she Yun Wanshang, Kaiyun true immortal of the Qingyun sect, a nascent soul immortal, had lost her chastity in such a wretched place, in this dilapidated cave, and the one to take it was a mere qi refinement stage junior cultivator. Such an energy-refining cultivator, under normal circumstances, she might not even spare an additional glance. Yet, in this instance, he had directly taken her innocence and broken her Tongyu Phoenix marrow body. Even with her centuries-old temperament, Yun Wanshang couldn't remain calm at this moment. A surge of humiliation and killing intent arose within her heart, especially seeing his pitiful and helpless, aggrieved expression, which greatly irritated her. She longed to slay the young man before her to vent the hatred in her heart. How could it be? Could it be that this matter has wronged you? You feel wronged, but I am the one who feels even more so. Not only did I lose my innocence, but the spirit-nurturing energy of the Tongyu Phoenix marrow body was also taken by you, aiding in your marrow cleansing and significantly advancing your cultivation level. And you still feel pitiful and aggrieved? Yun Wanshang grew more aggrieved the more she thought about it, wishing she could kill Lu Chongqing to appease the resentment in her heart. But a part of her heart was somewhat reluctant. After all, he was the man who had taken her virginity. It left her with a strange feeling in her heart. Moreover, she also understood that this matter couldn't be entirely blamed on him. She even had to thank Lu Chongqing for saving her life. When she used the Thunderfire Pearl to kill the man in the black robe and the Red Phoenix Fiend, she was determined to face death. She was prepared to die from the burning of the Red Phoenix Karma fire. If not for the young man before her, who, through their 3 days of union, extinguished the Karma fire, she might already be extinguished under the Red Phoenix Karma fire. Moreover, after the fire began to recede, she also regained a trace of clarity in her consciousness. She knew that the process was largely under her control. The junior cultivator at the Qi refinement stage couldn't resist during that time. He was at the mercy of her actions. Consider what happened between us just a dream. You'd best keep this matter to yourself forever. Not a word to another soul or I'll have to kill you, Yun Wanshang said with trembling lashes, her face expressionless. I understand, Lu Chongqing replied, a sigh of relief in his heart. Although the woman before him was unimaginably beautiful and had been intimately involved with him for 3 whole days, he was well aware that in the cultivation world, there was no such thing as a fait accompli. To think that because he had taken her virginity, she would marry him was a fantasy. His pitiful and helpless demeanor was a ploy, dreading that she might want to kill him out of shame and indignation for losing her virginity to him, slapping him dead with a single blow. After all, Lu Chongqing was acutely aware of the woman's formidable nature, her cultivation level deep and unfathomable. Otherwise, his cultivation level would not have soared during their 3 days of bliss. In her presence, he was no different from an ant. If she wished to kill him, he would have no power to resist. After speaking, as if to further reassure the woman, Lu Chongqing earnestly continued, "I will treat this matter as if it never happened, and will never mention it to anyone. If it leaks out, feel free to kill me." Yun Wanshang, on hearing Lu Chongqing agree without hesitation to act as if nothing had happened, not only felt no joy but a hint of displeasure. But with a faint chill in her voice, she said, "As long as you know." With those words, the man and woman remained in silent deadlock, bringing quiet to the cave. Yun Wanshang felt somewhat awkward. Although she was a core formation stage true immortal, having grown up in the immortal sects dedicated to cultivation since she was young, she knew even less about matters of men and women about emotions than an ordinary young girl. Chapter 108. You feel wronged, but I feel wronged too. When such an incident occurred, Lu Changsheng's instincts forbade him from divulging it. But deep inside, he was very agitated, unsure how to face it, unwilling to just let it go. Because during their intimate encounter, Lu Chongqing did more than just take her virginity. She possessed a very rare constitution, the Tongyu Phoenix marrow body. In the early stages, this constitution doesn't offer any benefits for cultivation. But after a breakthrough into the core formation stage, it becomes effective. A strand of spirit-nurturing energy would emerge within her body. This spirit-nurturing energy has the effect of purifying the true elixir and enhancing the consolidation of the nascent soul. Yet this spirit-nurturing energy, after her Tongyu Phoenix marrow body was deflowered, automatically entered Lu Changsheng's body. And there's no way to reclaim or regenerate this energy. It can only grow and be nourished within Lu Changsheng's body, using their Tongyu Phoenix marrow bodies and a secret dual cultivation technique as a catalyst, thus allowing the spirit-nurturing energy to benefit both the man and woman in refining the true elixir and enhancing the nascent soul. Previously, even though the Red Phoenix Fiend submitted and pledged loyalty to her, he desired to dual cultivate with her, precisely because of her Tongyu Phoenix marrow body and the spirit-nurturing energy within it. But now, her spirit-nurturing energy has entered the body of Lu Chongsheng, a minor cultivator in the Qi refinement realm. She had just checked Lu Changsheng's spiritual root grade. It was only an 8th grade spiritual root. This revelation left her dumbfounded. Such a spiritual root made core formation seem remote, let alone the challenge of achieving the foundation establishment stage. This view of Lu Chongqing made Yun Wanshang speechless. She couldn't fathom how someone with such good looks could have such a poor spiritual root. Having cultivated arduously to core formation and possessing the Tongyu Phoenix marrow body, she could have chosen any suitable husband, with a future prospect of reaching the nascent soul stage. But now, her heart was filled with a sense of grievance. Yun Wanshang stopped dwelling on these thoughts, not wanting to look at Lu Chongqing anymore, as it would only make her more frustrated. With a wave of her hand, a pair of embroidered shoes adorned with lotus flowers flew onto her feet, and she transformed into a rainbow of light and left, disappearing from the cave. Phew! Upon seeing the woman leave, Lu Chongqing heaved a deep sigh. Turning into a rainbow to fly, this woman must be a nascent soul immortal, right? Could it be that the duel that night involved this woman fighting against someone else? Considering the situation, Lu Chongqing mused internally. He also waved his hand, picking up and donning his clothes. Just then, a jade pendant flew steadily from the sky and landed in front of him. This jade pendant can conceal your aura. If you ever face a life-threatening crisis in the future, you may activate this pendant. Should you successfully reach the foundation establishment, I may consider giving you a chance. Meanwhile, a cold and indifferent voice sounded in Lu Changsheng's ears. It was Yun Wanshang's voice. Facing a life-threatening crisis, activate the jade pendant? Success in foundation establishment? Given a chance? Upon hearing these words, Lu Chongqing picked up the jade pendant, his face lighting up with joy and excitement. It seemed this fairy wasn't as heartless as he thought, who would no longer recognize him once Shed put on her skirt. Perhaps she was someone with a cold exterior but a warm heart. Lu Chongqing still had confidence in reaching foundation establishment. After all, he had the system on his side. As long as the child proved to be promising and diligent, what fairy or witch couldn't he, a father, marry? There and then, Lu Chongqing bowed towards the sky. Thank you, fairy. I, Lu Chongqing, will surely strive to cultivate to the foundation establishment stage. However, there was no response from the heavens. Lu Chongqing stood for a while, and when he received no reply and sensed the other party had truly left, he began to examine the jade pendant in his hand. The palm-sized pendant was painted with clouds and mists, and 9-colored radiance flowed within it. Lu Chongqing couldn't discern the quality of the jade pendant, but he felt that a gift from a nascent soul immortal must be a top-grade magic artifact or a spiritual artifact. Who would have thought that I, Lu Chongqing, would end up living off a woman? Lu Chongqing thought to himself internally. Now, he seemed to have a nascent soul immortal as support. If he encountered any peril in the future, he could call upon a nascent soul immortal for help. However, he felt that if he really activated the pendant for help, it would probably be the end of his association with this colorfully robed woman. Only after his successful foundation establishment could he activate the pendant to seek her out and then have further interactions with her, which was reasonable. The other party was a nascent soul immortal, and he was just a weakling in the chi refinement realm. Her willingness to give him a chance after he reached foundation establishment was already very generous. But if I want to officially marry her and have children, I'm afraid I'll at least have to reach the core formation stage, right? And I wonder if our 3 nights of effort could have resulted in a pregnancy? If so, any child born would surely be extraordinary, right? Lu Chongqing secretly contemplated, and then shook his head. He was getting ahead of himself, thinking about her bearing children for him when there was not even the slightest sign this would happen. Moreover, for cultivators who did not wish to conceive, no matter what the effort, it would be in vain. Then, Lu Chongqing turned his attention to the peach blossom goo in his spiritual sea and said, "You little thing have really outdone yourself, being so inconspicuous and unnoticed, yet causing such a big commotion when you do appear, huh?" The peach blossom goo feeds on the luck of romantic encounters. The more prosperous the romantic luck around the host, the faster the peach blossom goo grows. During these 3 days, not only did Lu Chongqing himself gain an increase in his cultivation level, the peach blossom goo also rapidly grew, nearing the threshold of transformation. Even Lu Chongqing, as naive as he was, knew that his recent streak of romantic luck couldn't be unrelated to the peach blossom goo. But this thing seems like a double-edged sword. After all, romantic luck, if not handled properly, can easily turn into a romantic calamity. Chapter 109. You feel wronged. I feel even more wronged. Lu Chongqing exhaled a long breath before checking the state of his cultivation level, to see the fruits of his efforts over the past 3 days. During the dual cultivation of joy in these 3 days, he could distinctly feel a light and ethereal spiritual energy moving within him. It caused his cultivation level to rise rapidly and filled his body with inexhaustible strength. Otherwise, after 3 days and nights without rest, Lu Chongqing felt he really couldn't have withstood it. Lu Chongqing saw that in his chi ocean core, where once there had been a trickle of spiritual energy, there was now a small stream. With a slight circulation of spiritual power, he immediately felt an inner surge like a flowing stream, far more vigorous than before. This was the manifestation of the 6th level energy refinement, and he had reached the peak of the 6th level. As long as he broke through the bottleneck from the middle stage to the later stage, he could advance from the 6th level to the 7th level energy refinement. At the peak of the 6th level energy refinement in just 3 days' time, I've broken through from the 4th level to the peak of the 6th level. This speed is simply relying on my own slow cultivation. It would take at least a decade to go from the 4th level to the peak of the 6th level, right? Moreover, the enhanced spiritual power doesn't have the slightest bit of hollowness. In fact, it is even more robust than before. Lu Chongqing looked at the spiritual energy in his Qi ocean core, filled with excitement. Immediately, his eyes brightened with joy and excitement. Not only have I made a breakthrough to the 6th level, but my 100 refinements treasure body art has also succeeded. The first layer has been cultivated. Lu Changsheng's eyes sparkled with determination and spirit as he suddenly clenched his fist and struck fiercely towards the cave wall. Bang! That punch, like a heavy hammer, smashed into the wall, leaving behind a large crater with a network of dense cracks spreading and a shower of rocks falling from above. This punch, it's got to be worth 20 years of strength. Lu Chongqing looked at the effect of his punch, his face full of delight. Then, as if thinking of something, he pulled out a flying sword from his storage bag. It was an inferior flying sword obtained from a robber cultivator. He then gently drew the flying sword across the skin of his finger. A faint resistance transmitted, leaving a white mark on his finger. If I apply force, it can still cut through. But this defensive power is decent. To truly become immune to a magic artifact with flesh alone, it's probably necessary to cultivate the 100 refinements treasure body technique to the 4th layer, right? Lu Chongqing did not continue to experiment, feeling very satisfied with his current situation. Extremely so. He felt better than ever before, as if he could entertain 10 women through the night. At this moment, Lu Chongqing faintly sensed traces of a weak energy still roaming inside his body. He closed his eyes and quietly felt it. This energy, could it be the light and ethereal energy that entered my body during the dual cultivation? Could it still be in my body? Not only did this energy allow my cultivation level to break directly through to the 6th level energy refinement, but it also had an effect of marrow cleansing and nurturing the flesh. What exactly is this? Is it the effect of a cultivation technique? Or could it be that she possesses some kind of spiritual body that's beneficial to dual cultivation? Lu Chongqing sensed this energy, which he couldn't control, and speculated in his mind. He immediately dismissed it as a cultivation technique. After all, that kind of cultivation technique was usually for cauldron-based cultivation. And how could someone capable of reaching nascent soul immortal be cultivating such techniques? That left only the spiritual body. Lu Chongqing, who read so much in his free time, knew that in the cultivation world, some cultivators not only possessed a spiritual root, but also had some inherent spiritual body talents. Like the Gengjin body constitution, cultivating the metal attribute cultivation technique not only allowed for a faster cultivation speed by several folds, but also the power exerted by the metal attribute cultivation techniques was also higher than that of ordinary cultivators. There was also something like a pure yang physique. If one cultivated the yang energy cultivation technique without breaking their body, they would make rapid progress, but once they did, not only would the effect be lost, they might also lose cultivation levels. There were also some other physiques beneficial to dual cultivation, like the charming female physique, primordial yin physique, and plain lady physique. Lu Chongqing guessed that this woman in the colorful skirt might possess some kind of physique like that, which was why he could obtain so many benefits. Being able to cultivate to the nascent soul immortal, possessing a spiritual body, it does make sense. Lu Chongqing murmured. Spiritual bodies were even rarer than spiritual roots. He read in books that even among cultivators, a spiritual body was 1 in 10,000. At the time, Lu Chongqing had also thought that if his own child were to have a spiritual body, whether it could give him a boost and let him have a spiritual body too. Did she give me this jade pendant to hide this whiff of light spiritual energy, rather than to hide my cultivation level? Lu Chongqing looked at the jade pendant the woman in the colorful skirt gave him, his face showing sudden realization. Initially, he thought that the jade pendant was meant to conceal his cultivation level's spiritual power. Now it seemed he had thought too much. Does this mean that if this whiff of energy is detected by others, it will bring me trouble? Lu Chongqing pondered further. Nevertheless, he shook his head. He currently could not control or expel that wisp of energy. With this jade pendant, he should not have to worry too much. Also, with this jade pendant, he shouldn't worry too much about his cultivation level. Otherwise, upon returning home, If the Lu family noticed that he had broken through to the 6th level energy refinement, it would be difficult to explain. After checking his physical condition, Lu Chongxing glanced at the iron feather eagle in the spiritual pet bag. The iron feather eagle had already recovered to normal. It was just extremely hungry from not eating for 3 days. Immediately, he took out a spirit-nourishing pill and a large chunk of demon beast meat to feed the iron feather eagle. After the iron feather eagle had its fill, he looked at the cave where he had obtained a supreme opportunity, then mounted the iron feather eagle and flew towards Qingzhou Mountain. Now that his strength had greatly increased, Lu Chongxing found his mindset to be much more stable, no longer as worried as when he had just left the 9 Dragons market. Indeed, cultivation level is the foundation of one's confidence. But I must not become arrogant. I am still a weak qi refinement cultivator, absolutely must not get carried away. However, now that I have the strength of the 6th level energy refinement, I can try drawing supreme talismans. Once I have plenty of supreme talismans, not only will I be safer, but I also won't have to worry about making money. Lu Chongxing, riding on the iron feather eagle, gazed at the scenery in front of him, feeling that the days ahead were getting more promising by the moment. Qingyun sect, Kaiyun Peak. Yun Wanshang soaked in the spiritual pool for a long time before she slowly got up, looking at her body that seemed to be crafted by the heavens as she bit her lip gently. She soaked for quite a while longer before raising her hand to clothe herself, regaining the appearance of a dignified, noble, and high-status fairy. My trip outside to acquire the purple spirit liquid, encountering an ambush by Red Luan Old Demon on the way back, was it a coincidence? Or was there someone scheming behind it? Yun Wanshang's beautiful face was calm, and a touch of coldness surfaced in her eyes. Then, with a slight movement of her lips, she sent a sound transmission to a female disciple in a courtyard on the mountain peak. Shi Yu, come to the Great Hall to see me. Chapter 110. Fairies Cultivation. Under 1 tall pines and verdant cypresses, on the Thousandjiang peaks where waterfalls descended and streams flowed, palace after palace was erected. In the magnificent palace at the peak, emptiness reigned, save for a colorfully dressed woman standing gracefully and poised. Master. At that moment, a beautiful woman with a graceful figure and white clothes billowing like sails entered the great hall. Looking at the woman in colorful clothes inside the hall, her beautiful and spirited eyes brightened as she gave a ceremonious bow, her voice sweet and gentle. Shi Yu, you have arrived. Yun Wanshang turned around upon seeing her disciple, revealing a smile on her stunning face. She said to Xiao Shiyu in a voice tinged with authority, Shiyu, I have gathered all the medicinal ingredients needed for the red dust elixir, but I must ask you once more, have you really made up your mind? With your 4th grade spiritual root and the innate moonlight spirit body, even if you do not cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, you would still aspire to core formation. Yun Wanshang spoke thus. Her recent expedition to collect purple spirit liquid was for the sake of her disciples' cultivation, to refine an elixir medicine. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Shiyu lightly pressed her lips together, and a serious expression appeared on her enchanting face. Then, with resolute eyes, she looked at Yun Wanshang and saluted with hands cupped. Master, Shiyu has decided, and I will have no regrets. Alas? Looking at Xiao Shiyu with her determined expression, Yun Wanshang sighed softly in her heart. She was uncertain whether mentioning the supreme forgetful love technique to her disciple back then was right or wrong. The supreme forgetful love technique was a cultivation method she had acquired in a secret realm. Despite its power, it also had obvious side effects. After cultivating it, one would gradually become indifferent, unmoved by emotions or disturbed by feelings. Ordinarily, Xiao Shiyu was lively and clever, much to her liking, but if she were to cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, she feared Shiyu's demeanor would be completely altered. Nevertheless, Yun Wanshang did not offer any further persuasion. She gave a slight nod and said, Good. Since you have decided, I will ask Elder Yun to refine the red dust elixir for you. She also understood that even with Xiao Shiyu's talent and gifts, core formation was only a hope. But if she could master the supreme forgetful love technique, it would no longer be just a hope. As long as she did not die prematurely, she would certainly achieve core formation. There might even be hope for further advancements. That was the reason why she had given Xiao Shiyu the choice of the supreme forgetful love technique in the first place. The azure sky, clear for thousands of miles. An iron feather eagle with jet black feathers glided through the air. We were delayed for 3 or 4 days on the journey. I wonder if I can still make it in time? Lu Chongqing sat cross-legged on the iron feather eagle, his heart full of concern for Lu Miaoyun, who was about to give birth. By his original calculations, he would arrive home early enough to be there for the birth of Lu Miaoyun's child. However, the ambush on the way and the 3 days and nights in the cave had delayed him. He was uncertain whether Lu Miaoyun had already given birth. At that moment, suddenly, a mysterious and profound throbbing arose within Lu Chongqing. He recognized this throbbing very well. It was the stirring of the spiritual root. Lu Chongqing abruptly looked into the distance towards Qingzhou Mountain, his face alight with joy and excitement. At this moment, he seemed to hear the cry of a baby from afar. My child has been born." This profound throbbing gave Lu Chongqing a feeling as if there was a blood connection. He knew Lu Miaoyun had given birth, and his own child had entered the world. And this child did not disappoint his expectations or hopes. He possessed a spiritual root. This sensation of the spiritual root's enhancement seems to be stronger than the previous 2 times. Lu Chongqing reflected on the fleeting moment of the spiritual root's stirring. Having already 3 children with spiritual roots, bolstered by 3 increments, he could sense the subtle differences brought by the enhancement of the spiritual root. For his previous 3 children, their spiritual roots, he was rather certain, 1 with a 9th grade spiritual root, and 2 with 8th grade spiritual roots. This child now had a high likelihood of having a 7th grade spiritual root, just like Lu Miaoyun's spiritual root. Ha! In that moment, Lu Chongqing exhaled deeply, his gaze fixed in the direction of Qingzhou Mountain, his heart yearning to return home. After a good part of the day, an iron feather eagle descended outside Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Chongqing stored the iron feather eagle back into his spiritual pet bag, took out his identity token, and after entering the valley, he transformed into a shadow, racing toward his home. Husband! Husband! Daddy, daddy! Daddy's back! As soon as Lu Chongqing stepped into the manor, his wives and the playing children saw him and greeted him with joyful expressions, shouting to Lu Chongqing, "Husband, Sister Miaoyun has already given birth today. It's a boy." One of the wives approached and informed Lu Chongqing. "Good. I'll go see Miaoyun." Lu Chongqing nodded and made his way to a certain courtyard. He saw Lu Miaoyun in the courtyard holding a swaddled baby, her face beaming with maternal radiance. Chu Jinjin and several wives were at her side, watching over the child and chatting with her. "Husband!" The women showed delight at Lu Chongqing's return. Lu Chongqing nodded slightly, then said to Lu Miaoyun, "Miaoyun, I apologize for coming back late due to some mishaps on the way." He had promised Lu Miaoyun that he would arrive before the birth of their child. Although he initially planned to make it in time, due to unforeseen occurrences, he was delayed by half a day. There was also some guilt in his heart. "It's all right, husband." Lu Miaoyun, having just given birth, was still somewhat weak and her complexion was a bit pale. She bore no blame for Lu Chongqing, and instead looked at him with concern, inquiring, "Husband, what mishap did you encounter on the road? Was there any danger?" "I just ran into a few minor robber cultivators. But with the protection talismans from grandmother, there was no real danger." Chapter 111. Fairies' Cultivation. Lu Chongqing smiled and said, "Robber cultivators?" Lu Miaoyun and the other women were shocked upon hearing this, showing a terrified expression. They naturally knew that the cultivation world was extremely dangerous. There were many cultivators who bullied the weak, robbed at will, and killed for treasure. These kinds of cultivators were known as robber cultivators. Those who became robber cultivators also possessed certain strengths and methods. They hadn't expected that on the way home, their husband had actually encountered a robber cultivator. They also knew that their husband's cultivation level wasn't high. He had only recently broken through to the 4th level of chi refinement and had not experienced much life and death fighting. Husband, it's too dangerous for you to travel back and forth each month like this. With Sister Miaoga around, it's all right, but if you're alone in the future, you might encounter danger. Why don't you talk to Grandma and stop coming back every month, or wait until second Grandpa comes home and travel back with him? Lu Miaoyun said, her face showing a touch of worry. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing felt warmth in his heart. He had similarly considered this matter himself. He thought of bringing Lu Miaoyun and the other women like Chu Jinjin to the Nine Dragons market as well. Otherwise, traveling back and forth each month could still lead to danger. Although he now had the cultivation of the 6th level of chi refinement and could draw some supreme talismans to protect himself, not fearing ordinary robber cultivators, what if he met a Foundation establishment great cultivator? And if he encountered an accident like this time again? What if his stroke of luck turned into a disaster? So, for safety's sake, Lu Chongqing decided it was best not to travel back and forth as much. Instead, he planned to live quietly and securely in the Nine Dragons market. Let's talk about this matter later. Let me see our child first. Lu Chongqing smiled, planning to discuss the matter with the 4th elder later. He then looked toward the child in Lu Miaoyun's arms. Since both he and Lu Miaoyun were cultivators, this child also looked noticeably more adorable and attractive. With shining black eyes and smooth, fair skin, not reddened and wrinkled. Holding the child in his arms, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but smile. He could clearly feel that he would be even more fond of this child. Indeed, how could one be completely impartial and fair? After all, there will always be favoritism and preference. Lu Chongqing mused internally. He had long known that with many children, it was impossible for him to treat them all equally. With children like Lu Pingon, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Shila, it was still manageable. But as the number of children increased, besides a few who usually pleased him, he would noticeably favor the children with a spiritual root. Husband, why don't you name this child? At this moment, Lu Miaoyun, looking at the delighted Lu Chongqing holding the child, said softly, a name. Lu Chongqing pondered for a moment upon hearing this and smiled. Let's call him Lu Yun. The name suggests ambition and a broad and profound future, and it shares a similar sound with your name, Miaoyun. Now with many children, naming had also become more difficult. So Lu Chongqing became somewhat more casual about naming his children. Lu Yun. Lu Miaoyun, hearing this name, immediately had a glint of admiration in her eyes, looking at Lu Chongqing with tenderness and affection. Then she smiled toward the child in the swaddle. From now on, your name will be Lu Yun, Yuner. From now on, not only will the husband have a big Yuner, but also a little Yuner, said another wife jokingly. What little Yuner? Big Yuner. In my heart, there's only one Yuner, Lu Chongqing immediately said, embracing Lu Miaoyun who was beside him. Hearing this, Lu Miaoyun instantly blushed, leaning sweetly and contentedly into Lu Chongqing's embrace, drawing giggles and envy from the other wives nearby. Just like that, Lu Chongqing spent time with Lu Miaoyun, Chu Jinjin, and his numerous wives. It wasn't until the next day that he found some free time. He went to the study and began to meditate and cultivate, to see how much his cultivation speed had increased after the addition of his son's spiritual root. After cultivating for an hour, Lu Chongqing could sense that his cultivation speed had increased by about 20%. This confirmed to him that his son had a 7th grade spiritual root. The cultivation speed with a 7th grade spiritual root is almost 30% faster than that with an 8th grade spiritual root, and it's easier to break through bottlenecks. Once this child grows a bit and his spiritual root fully matures, my spiritual root will be upgraded to the 7th grade. If the child in Zenshin's womb, due next month, also has a spiritual root, my spiritual root might directly advance to 7th grade. Then I imagine breaking through the bottleneck from the 6th level to the 7th level of chi refinement will be much simpler. Otherwise, I don't know how long I would have to wait to break through from middle to later stage. Lu Changsheng's eyes twinkled with great anticipation. He had just finished an hour of cultivation, but there was hardly any movement in his Qi ocean core. It made him inwardly sigh at the difficulty of advancing from the middle to the later stages of Qi refinement. Thinking back to his own advancement from the 3rd level to the 4th level of Qi refinement, he had been stuck for more than a year. The bottleneck from the middle to later stages would only be harder, likely requiring 3 to 5 years of grinding. However, Lu Changxing was already quite satisfied. Without this stroke of lucky encounter, he wouldn't have known how long it would take him to break through from the 4th level to the 6th level of Qi refinement. Just the experience of advancing from the 4th level to the 6th level in 3 days had made him somewhat reluctant to strive harder. He fondly reminisced about those magical and enchanting 3 days and nights. If I could have continued for 10 days or half a month back then, could I have directly advanced to the pinnacle of Qi refinement? Lu Changxing couldn't help but think. As he crafted the Thunder Talisman, a sense of seriousness and concentration appeared on Lu Changsheng's face. The spirited pen moved slowly on the talisman paper, outlining one talisman line after another, with the patterns flickering with spiritual light. However, before he was even halfway through the outline, the talisman paper suddenly made a ZZT sound and emitted a puff of smoke. I suddenly broke through to the peak of the 6th level of energy refinement and am not yet familiar with it. My control is still lacking a bit. Lu Changxing shook his head. He immediately knew what the problem was. One issue was the middle-grade magic artifact pen, which wasn't quite up to the task of crafting a supreme talisman. The second was that his control over spiritual power was insufficient. So with both problems combined, the excessive spiritual power during the drawing process caused the lines to be unstable, resulting in a failed crafting. But these weren't real problems, just things that required a bit more familiarization. Feeling the spiritual power within his body, Lu Changxing didn't continue with talisman making. He planned to wait until later when his spiritual power and mental spirit recovered before trying to craft a supreme talisman again. With a cultivation level at the 6th level, crafting a supreme talisman was not an issue. But he could likely only make one at a time, without the possibility of continuous crafting. Having just crafted one superior talisman and half of a supreme talisman, it had taken a toll on him. He needed to take it slow. Moreover, such matters were not to be rushed. Lu Changxing left his home, ready to visit the 4th elder and discuss the matter of running between 2 places. But just as he stepped out, he learned that the 4th elder had already come to his home to visit his great-grandson. Immediately, Lu Changxing headed to the backyard. He saw the 4th elder with a loving smile, holding his son Lu Yun and chatting happily with Lu Miaoyun. "Grandmother." Lu Changxing stepped forward and greeted with a slight bow. "Changxing, you're here." The 4th elder nodded toward Lu Changxing and said, "I just heard from Yuner that you encountered a robber cultivator on your way back. Is that so?" "Yes. But with the talisman you gave me, Grandma." Changxing didn't experience any mishaps. Lu Changxing said so. "Grandma was just thinking. It's indeed dangerous for you to be traveling back and forth alone. Even with a talisman at hand, it's still not safe. Therefore, Grandma thinks, why don't you just stop going to 9 Dragons Market? I can find someone else to manage the spiritual talisman shop there, and you can just stay at home in peace." The 4th elder spoke, saying this. She had wanted Lu Changxing to go to 9 Dragons Market to manage the shop as a way for him to gain experience and learn something. But if any accident were to happen on these journeys, it would be more loss than gain. So, she would rather Lu Changxing stay put at Qingzhou Mountain without going out. Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. He had thought the 4th elder would allow him not to come back every month. He had not expected the 4th elder to directly suggest that he stay at Qingzhou Mountain and not go out at all. If it had been before, he wouldn't have cared. He would have just comfortably stayed put at Qingzhou Mountain. But now, having tasted the conveniences and benefits of 9 Dragons Market, he had a preference for staying there long-term. Otherwise, spending all his days at Qingzhou Mountain, he would miss out on buying materials for the 100 Refinements treasure body art, materials for talisman making, earning spirit stones, or even finding a girl. Grandma, Chongqing still wants to go to Nine Dragons Market to experience the outside world. However, I'm thinking of bringing Yuner and the others to Nine Dragons Market later on. When coming back home, I can come with the second elder. Lu Chongqing voiced his thoughts. Yesterday, he had also heard from Lu Miaoyun that the second elder would return after a certain period of time as well. That's also fine. With your talent in talisman making, there's not much more Grandma can teach you, and you don't have to come back every month. As for the matter with Yuner, you and your wife can discuss it among yourselves. It's not a problem to come back with the second elder. The second elder comes back almost every 6 months, which is also suitable, said the fourth elder after a moment of contemplation, nodding her assent. She could understand Lu Changsheng's thinking. After all, what 20-something-year-old would want to stay cooped up in Qingzhou Mountain all the time? Shortly after, Lu Chongqing finished chatting with the fourth elder, and also discussed with Lu Miaoyun, Chu Zhenjin, and the others about the subsequent arrangements. For this trip, he would stay at home, waiting for Chu Zhenjin to give birth before going back to Nine Dragons Market. As for Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, there was no rush to head to Nine Dragons Market. They would first strengthen themselves in Qingzhou Mountain and take care of the child. Lu Pingon, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and the other children had been sent by Lu Miaoyun to White Deer Mountain Villa not long ago to study. If everyone left, there would be no one to watch over so many children at home. Thus, Lu Chongsheng settled down in Qingzhou Valley, waiting for Chu Zhenjin to have the baby. In the meantime, Lu Chongsheng tested out the effects of the 100 Refinements treasure body art a little. All he could say was it truly lived up to the orthodox level body refining techniques. Just the first level alone, and his physical body was comparable to a magic artifact, capable of dealing with 10 women in a single night. Chapter 113. Having a baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw _1 outside the birthing room. Lu Chongsheng, holding his son Lu Chuanjin, and accompanied by several wives and concubines, waited outside. Lu Chuanjin was his first child with Chu Zhenjin, possessing an 8th-grade spiritual root. Wah! Soon, a clear cry of a baby echoed from the birthing room, invigorating Lu Changsheng's spirit. However, at this moment he felt no anomaly, no palpitations. Immediately, Lu Chongqing knew. The child Chu Zhenjin bore had no spiritual root. Having anticipated this for so long, upon learning at this moment that the child had no spiritual root, to say there was no disappointment would be impossible. But in a moment, Lu Chongqing came to terms with it. Even if both parents had spiritual roots, the probability of their child being born with one was only about 10 to 20%. That Chu Zhenshin's first birth and Lu Miaoyun's child last month both had spiritual roots was already a blessing. How could one expect each and every one to possess a spiritual root? Lu Chongsheng was quite open-minded about this and walked into the birthing room, still holding Lu Chuanjin. The midwife immediately carefully handed over the swaddled infant to Lu Chongqing with a full-faced smile, saying, "Congratulations, young master. It's a baby girl. Good. Thank you for your efforts." Upon hearing the words, Lu Chongqing smiled as he took the swaddle and looked at the child. Since Chu Zhenshin's previous child was a boy, and this one was a girl, they were blessed with both a son and a daughter. "Chuanjin, this is your younger sister." Lu Chongqing looked at the newborn child and said to Lu Chuanjin, "Mm. Lu Chuanjin, already a year and a half old, could say some simple words. He looked at his newly born sister with curious eyes, babbling away. Lu Chongqing approached the bed and placed Lu Chuanjin down. Seeing Chu Zhenshin's somewhat pale and weak face, Lu Chongqing felt pained as he took her small hand, saying, "Zhenjin, you've worked hard." He had always been quite fond of this girl, whom he had saved halfway through her life. One reason was the girl's indeed cleverness and understanding nature that endeared her to everyone. Another reason was that Chu Zhenjin had a spiritual root, and he had had ulterior motives when bringing Chu Zhenjin back to Qingzhou Mountain. Furthermore, given her pitiable background, alone with no one but himself, he afforded her an extra share of affection. Husband. A smile appeared on Chu Zhenjin's face as she softly called out to Lu Chongqing, then tried to sit up to look at the child. Look, how adorable. She will certainly be as cute as you, Zhenjin, when she grows up. Lu Chongqing immediately handed the child over for her to see, saying with a smile, Chuanjin, you must take good care of your sister and protect her. Do you understand? Chu Zhenjin smiled, then turned to her somewhat confused son Lu Chuanjin, and gently said. Seeing Chu Zhenjin's expression, Lu Chongqing knew she was thinking of her own childhood, thinking of her brother, Chu Chang'e. He hadn't told Chu Zhenjin about the news of Chu Chang'e's demon cultivation. He just said that people were searching, but there was still no news. Now, more than 2 years later, with no news of her brother, Chu Zhenjin gradually realized that her brother was likely more unfortunate than fortunate. Thereupon, Lu Chongqing took Chu Zhenjin's hand and gently comforted her. As long as you have me, I will also take good care of all of you and protect you. In this world, wives and children are also his soft spot and one of the driving forces behind his efforts. In his view, if one couldn't even protect one's wives and children, then the path of immortality was cultivated in vain. Husband, have you thought of a name for this child? Chu Zhenjin asked, her pretty face showing a sweet smile. The name, let's call her Yuzhen. Lu Chongqing pondered for a moment and named the little girl in his arms. Chuanjin Yuzhen. Chu Zhenjin heard the name, murmured it, and then softly said to the little girl, Yuzhen, Lu Yuzhen. The infant in her arms also cried out with a wah, as if responding. Seeing this scene, both Lu Chongqing and Chu Zhenjin couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Soon after, the couple chatted for a while, and Lu Chongqing told Chu Zhenjin to rest well before leaving the room with the children. Atop a solemn, austere, and eerily sinister platform, the cold wind howled. Around the platform stood tall metallic flagpoles, upon which black banners embroidered with various demon patterns flapped. Some had 3 heads and 6 arms, some had ferocious faces, some were covered in eyes, some had the bodies of demons and humans with wings, and others were headless with faces on their chests. These varied and lifelike patterns could chill the hearts of those who saw them, as if they were being watched by demons themselves. In the center of the platform sat a man in his 20s with an austere face and white hair, surrounded by many strange patterns and runes etched around him. At this time, dark red blood traced the patterns, continuously flowing towards the center where the white-haired young man sat. The man's face was contorted in pain, his fists clenched tightly, veins bulging, blood pulsing, and sweat pouring from his body. But the white-haired young man just bit down hard on his teeth, uttering no sound, enduring the ordeal. No one knew how much time passed when suddenly, the demon patterns on the surrounding banners seemed to come to life. Their crimson eyes suddenly opened, staring down at the white-haired man, filling the platform with an overwhelming blood-colored glow. Enveloped in this blood-red light, the white-haired young man let out a muffled groan. Blood flowed from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, and the veins in his body bulged like worms, nearly bursting open. Boom! Just then, drenched in blood and in severe pain, the white-haired man's body emitted a thin, blood-red membrane. It was like a layer of freshly spilled blood slowly flowing over his skin, transforming into an eerie blood-colored battle dress. Chapter 114. Having a baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw. The pale-faced youth's face and skin revealed dark red demon patterns. Indeed, in less than a year's time, you've cultivated the demonic technique to completion. Just at that moment, a young man dressed in a black robe, with an exceptionally handsome face, walked out of the void. He looked at the pale-faced youth and revealed a satisfied smile. Then, with a wave of his hand, he and the pale-faced youth disappeared from the platform. 4 days after Chu Zhenjin gave birth, Lu Miaoge also returned to Qingzhou Mountain. She made an agreement with Lu Chongxing to depart for the Nine Dragons market in 3 days. In the following days, Lu Chongxing discussed with his wives and concubines, and ultimately decided to let them stay on Qingzhou Mountain. It wasn't just that traveling back and forth was inconvenient. There were so many children at home in need of care, he couldn't bear to leave them. In the more than a month he spent at home, Lu Chongxing didn't slack off, but made every effort to impregnate 2 of his wives. With these 2 children, he now had 34 in total. However, when he thought about how his 29th and 30th children were still nearly 3 months from being born, Lu Chongxing couldn't help but sigh. He felt that he had been somewhat negligent during that time to have such a long gap. 3 days later, Lu Chongxing rode the Iron Feather Eagle with Lu Miaoge as they set out for the Nine Dragons market. Before their departure, the 4th elder gave him 3 protective talismans. 2 thunder summoning talismans and 1 thunder talisman. Lu Chongxing had told the 4th elder that he had been forced to use the 2 talismans when he encountered a robber cultivator before. Even though Lu Chongxing now had 9 supreme talismans in his storage bag, he naturally accepted the 4th elder's kindness with a delighted and grateful expression. Their journey to the Nine Dragons market was very smooth, with no unexpected incidents. This made Lu Chongxing inquire whether Lu Miaoge had encountered any unexpected dangers or robber cultivators during her years of traveling back and forth to the market. Lu Miaoge said that in 3 years, she had only encountered a robber cultivator once. Hearing this, Lu Chongxing couldn't help but shake his head, wondering if he was just unlucky or if he looked like easy prey. After returning home, Lu Chongxing learned from a casual conversation with little Qing that the family next door to his left had moved away about half a month after he returned to Qingzhou Mountain. This led Lu Chongxing to secretly wonder if his assassination attempt had anything to do with this neighbor. After all, based on suspicions related to the allure spell, the 2 robber cultivators who tried to cut him down certainly had accomplices in Nine Dragons market. Moreover, when he previously visited this neighbor, he sensed a murderous aura on the person, making them unapproachable. And the fact that they moved away just half a month after he left was too coincidental. However, since the neighbor had moved away, whether they were involved or not, Lu Chongxing couldn't confirm and only became more cautious. Subsequently, Lu Chongxing used disguises to carefully dispose of some stolen goods. He sold the magic artifacts of the 2 robber cultivators, keeping only a middle-grade magical shield and 1 flying artifact for himself. The other 7 lower-grade magical instruments, for middle-grade magical instruments, and 1 flying artifact were all sold. These magic artifacts fetched a total of 908 spirit stones. The magical robe and magical shoes were somewhat damaged, severely discounted, and since he was dealing with a shop's buyback, the prices were low. Otherwise, if he had set up a stall to sell them himself, he could have earned a few dozen more spirit stones. As for the elixir medicines, talismans, and various other items on the 2 robber cultivators, they were not easy to sell. Lu Chongxing used what he could and stored the rest for later. Previously, he had acquired 362 spirit stones from the 2 robber cultivators. Now, keeping the magical shield and flying artifact, he had sold items for 908 spirit stones, and Lu Chongxing was very satisfied with this haul. He began to feel that the 2 robber cultivators weren't so detestable after all. While selling the magic artifacts, he also casually sold over 100 middle and lower grade talismans. He earned 211 spirit stones. Looking at the substantial sum of spirit stones on him, Lu Chongxing didn't hesitate to spend 634 spirit stones to purchase a superior grade soft magic armor. This soft magic armor had 7 major effects: size adjustment, spell immunity, invisibility, cleanliness, dust repelling, evil warding, and body protection. What Lu Chongxing appreciated the most were the spell immunity and body protection effects. This spell immunity wasn't literally immunity to all spells. It could mainly ignore most early-stage Qi refinement spells and alleviate some of the damage from middle-stage Qi refinement spells. The body protection effect didn't need much explanation. In times of danger, it could passively trigger a body-protecting technique capable of blocking a single strike from a 9th-level energy refinement cultivator. It was primarily for these two effects that Lu Chongqing was willing to spend so many spirit stones on this magic artifact. He then spent 219 spirit stones to buy a middle-grade magic belt. Chapter 116. The Great Tao should not be so narrow, nor should there be so few fellow Taoists. _1. 30 children. The children in Jiu'er and Shu'er's wombs were born? Upon hearing this sudden system prompt, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but feel invigorated, his face showing delight. He immediately knew that it was Jiu'er and Shu'er on Qingzhou Mountain who had given birth to their children. The lack of any throbbing sensation indicated that neither of the children possessed a spiritual root. I wonder what color hair and eyes the children have, Lu Chongqing thought to himself. He had always been quite curious about this matter. He had even sought out related materials before, but the books didn't give a clear statement, only mentioning that this was mostly determined by the bloodlines of both parents. Not dwelling on this further, Lu Chongqing took a deep breath, slowly exhaled, and murmured, "System, I want to draw a prize." Immediately, a faint red virtual prize wheel appeared. I wonder what he'll draw this time. As Lu Chongqing looked at the prize wheel, he muttered to himself, and then said directly, "Start the draw." With a thought, the faint red will suddenly burst into a golden brilliance and started spinning. After 5 seconds, the golden light slowly diminished, turning notch by notch until it finally stopped on the magical treasure's prize. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining a magical treasure. Black Dragon Magical Bead. Reward has been issued to System Space. The host can check at any time. A black bead with a faint image of a flood dragon appearing and disappearing emerged from the prize wheel, accompanied by a system prompt sound. Magical treasure? Good heavens! I finally got something I wanted. Seeing the reward he drew this time, Lu Chongqing's eyes lit up as he showed a mixture of excitement and joy. From low to high, the magic artifacts used by cultivators are categorized as magic artifact, spiritual artifact, magical treasure, spiritual treasure, and heaven-reaching spiritual treasure. They correspond to different realms such as the Qi refinement realm, foundation establishment stage, core formation stage, nascent soul stage, and divinity transformation stage, respectively. Only a nascent soul immortal can wield a magical treasure. Naturally, Lu Chongqing was unable to wield a magical treasure. However, the practice art he cultivated, 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, allowed him to refine a magical treasure into his body to accelerate his cultivation. Previously, even a severely damaged fragment of a magical treasure had significantly advanced his 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. Inside the bead, a miniature ink-black flood dragon could be distinctly seen coiling around. So this is a magical treasure. Lu Chongqing curiously examined the black dragon magical bead in his hand. This was his first time seeing a magical treasure. However, after looking at it for a while, he didn't notice anything special and thought it was just SOSO. Lu Chongqing went to the rest room on the 3rd floor, ready to start refining the black dragon magical bead. He was eager to refine the bead into his body to cultivate with the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art and nourish his treasure bones. After all, not long ago, he had successfully started the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, letting him vividly experience the benefits of body refinement, bringing forth strength and robustness. While his original body was quite good and very healthy, it was nothing compared to the feeling of body refinement success with a body full of power and the ability to spend the night with 10 women. Lu Chongqing activated the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, utilizing his mental spirit and spiritual power to begin refining the black dragon magical bead before him. Under the refining of his mental spirit and spiritual power, the black dragon magical bead emitted streaks of black air, spiraling out and ascending. The soul of the evil flood dragon coiling inside also became animated at this moment, vivid and lifelike, as if it was about to break out of the bead. Lu Chongqing remained composed, knowing this was the activated state of the magical treasure, and continued to refine it with his mental spirit and mana. Yu Maoqing called out to Lu Chongsheng as he passed by the Jade Meal Pavilion. Since the two lived across from each other and their shops were located nearby, they would greet each other and chat briefly when they met. Especially after Yu Maoqing found out during a conversation some time ago that Lu Chongsheng was not a Lu family disciple but a son-in-law to the family. He felt as though he had found a kindred spirit. He began to complain to Lu Chongsheng about marriage, expressing some regrets about marrying into such a cultivation family. While it was like having the backing of a large tree, it also often led to a wife who was very strict after marriage. Being a spirit cooking chef himself, constantly busy, he only had 10 spirit stones of pocket money a month. To such sentiments, Lu Chongqing naturally could not relate. However, it was not good to say too much, so he simply responded with a few agreeing words, acknowledging the difficulty and sharing that his own wife was quite understanding in this regard. At that time, Yu Maoqing had not detected the tone in Lu Changsheng's response, and would come to drink and chat with him when he had nothing else to do. It wasn't until a short time later that Yu Maoqing saw all the ladies in Lu Changsheng's courtyard, which made him feel numb and silent. At that moment, the way he looked at Lu Changsheng changed. Of course, they did not become distant over just this one incident. They would still greet each other as usual, ask how things were going, and invite each other to eat at the Jade Meal Pavilion. But he stopped asking Lu Chongqing out for drinks to complain about his marital life. He knew that complaining to someone like Lu Chongqing was like playing the lute to a cow. The latter simply could not understand his anguish and lacked any empathy. I feel like the house is a bit short on maids. I'm planning to go check out the White Jade Tower, Lu Chongqing replied with a smile. He then cordially invited Yu Maoqing. Brother Yu, would you care to join? Let me tell you, this White Jade Tower. Scram, scram, scram. Yu Maoqing immediately darkened his face and waved his hand hastily when he heard this. Brother Yu, as the saying goes, one should not walk a narrow Dao alone, nor should one have too few companions on the Dao. Therefore, the more companions you have, the more steadfast the great Dao in your heart. Lu Chongqing joked, taking strides toward the White Jade Tower in search of the Dao. Watching Lu Changsheng's retreating figure, Yu Maoqing sighed softly, a hint of envy involuntarily appearing in his eyes. He knew that Lu Chongqing had over a dozen maids at home, and yet he was still off to wander around the White Jade Tower. Thinking of his own situation, he sighed softly. At this moment, a woman in her 30s, with a beautiful face, approached Yu Maoqing and said, Husband, are you envious of Lu Chongqing? Do you also wish to take a few more concubines? What he valued was the woman's 7th grade spiritual root. If it weren't for the fact that this woman's Qi Ocean core was damaged, based on the previous prices at White Jade Tower, a woman with a 7th grade spiritual root would normally cost at least 500 to 600 spirit stones. In Lu Changsheng's opinion, for him this was quite the bargain. Immediately afterwards, Lu Chongqing paid a deposit of 60 spirit stones and waited for the person to be delivered. He also spent 50 spirit stones to purchase 4 ordinary maids without spiritual roots. Lu Chongqing asked White Jade Tower to send these 4 maids to his residence later on. He didn't want to take them back with him. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous to walk down the street with them. For such a small request, Feng Jinyang readily agreed, indicating there was no problem. Just as he was about to leave White Jade Tower, Lu Chongqing thought of something. He asked Feng Jinyang, Manager Feng, does White Jade Tower have any women with a spiritual body? About spiritual bodies, he had only read some brief mentions in books before. It was only because of the matter with the woman in the colorful dress that it occurred to him. Considering White Jade Tower had such extensive connections, there might be women with spiritual bodies. Feng Jinyang seemed slightly startled upon hearing this. Then she softly smiled coquettishly. Of course we do. Lu Chongqing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. He hadn't expected that within White Jade Tower, there would indeed be women with a spiritual body. It seemed White Jade Tower was even more impressive than he had imagined. Seeing Lu Changsheng's surprise, Feng Jinyang chuckled lightly and continued, however, individuals with a spiritual body are extremely rare, 1 in 10,000, and even White Jade Tower doesn't see many of them. Plus, even if there are any, they are generally thinking of finding a Dao companion through White Jade Tower, hoping to marry a satisfactory gentleman. If young Master Lu is looking to spend spirit stones to buy a maid, I'm afraid he will be disappointed. Even we at White Jade Tower don't have many maids with a spiritual body, and many people come to us with reservations. If young Master Lu is interested, he can first pay a deposit, and when White Jade Tower finds someone with a spiritual body, we will notify him. With a charming smile on her face, Feng Jinyang spoke unhurriedly. I was just asking casually. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing was not really disappointed, as he found this more normal. Otherwise, if even women with spiritual bodies were being casually sold at White Jade Tower, their power would be quite terrifying. He didn't ask further. Now, women bearing a spiritual body were a bit out of reach for him, not something he could contemplate at this stage. If he happened to meet one, that would be more than good enough. But to spend money at White Jade Tower to buy a maid with a spiritual body, that was out of the question. With that money, he might as well buy a few maids with middle-grade spiritual roots. After all, the grade of the parents' spiritual roots directly affects the potential of their children's spiritual roots. If both parents have lower-grade spiritual roots, it is difficult to have children with middle-grade spiritual roots. If among the parents one has a middle-grade spiritual root, then the probability of their children having middle-grade spiritual roots becomes much higher. Immediately after, under Feng Jiunyang's escort, Lu Chongqing left White Jade Tower. As Lu Chongqing was on his way back, he heard a commotion from a nearby shop. Turning to look, he saw a familiar figure. P.S. Because I used to upload chapters right after writing them without saving any drafts, the update times were irregular. From now on, I'll update at this fixed time. You're tuning in to the Legend of the Vagabond YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.